Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 558th episode of the GeekVerse podcast. More importantly, the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 review and spoilers discussion. I am the legendary Prince of Podcast, Travis Snail, and I'm joined by...
I'm the Jube, Kirkland Patzer.
I'm the high evolutionary Dilmas.
I'm the Kaiju, Taylor Field.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, as I said, we are here. It's been a long road. At one point, who knows if we're gonna get this movie? At one point, we're gonna get a different director of this movie. Director comes back. We've been through a lot. When you really contextualize and think about our coverage of this movie, all the way back to that weekend of Comic-Con when James Gunn let go, to now to the Suicide Squad, to now he's running DC, and now he's gonna direct Superman. Like, there's so much stuff of like this being like the end of one chapter and going to another. So that's a fun thing. But yeah, we're gonna talk about this as always. If you don't know how it goes, for people that are tuning in, if you're seeing it a couple days later, next week, or you're kind of on the fence because who knows, maybe you don't like the other Guardians movies or don't like Gum, whatever it may be, we'll start off the 10-15 minutes all spoiler-free thoughts, everything like that. Everything you need to know is down below. The biggest thing is head over to Patreon right now, because not only you get ad-free, early exclusive episodes, not only do you support the podcast, we're trying to get a goal where I think it's like 52%, because we're at 26. We want to get to 50 patrons by the end of July 31st. If you get that, you're going to unlock 6 episodes. That's for everybody, and that's joining any tier, whether you're the $1 tier, the $15 tier, doesn't matter. We're going to unlock 6 extra episodes for the whole month, a GV bingo. There is an episode 10 hall, and you go to get all that stuff, but that's the most important thing. So if you want some episodes, you want some stories, commentary tracks, Nintendo Cinematic Universes, MCU reboot stuff, you can go, there's a whole list of them. But yeah, go do that. We'd really much appreciate the support. And yeah, Taylor, where can they find us?
Ladies and gentlemen, with your net connection, in the search bar, GeekVerse.ca is our home base, GeekVerseCast is our Twitter, and GeekVerse is our Facebook.
All right, so let's do this. Kirkland Patzer, what did you think of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3? Because you've been on a journey yourself of someone, when we first started this podcast, notorious, Guardians of the Galaxy, worst movie you've ever seen.
Yeah, big James Gunn hater.
Hated Feige, but then 2 brought you around, and now I feel like you're a bit more likable in the first one nowadays,
Absolutely, yeah. I feel like I rewatched the first one leading into the second one, and I just had a great time with it. I don't know what the emotions are. It's making me nervous. But yeah, I just had a good old time rewatching it, and then leading to the second one, yeah, I feel like I like the second one more than the first one. And I had very, very high expectations going into this movie, and I feel like for the most part they were met, actually. I really, really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was very emotional, actually. There was just multiple scenes that just had me with tears in my eyes and still managed to surprise me. It's just, yeah, I'm excited to talk about some of those moments with you, but I thought there were some really great character moments, new and old. And yeah, I thought the CGI was phenomenal for all the action sequences, and really just felt satisfied to say goodbye to the Guardians as we know them from this movie. Or not. Tune into the spoiler section to find out more. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed my time with this one, and I highly, highly recommend this movie.
Highly. Dylan, did you have a likable good time here?
Yeah, I love this movie. I think it was fantastic. I've always been a big Guardians fan. And I like that they are all, now I've seen all 3 of them, they're all very different in their own ways, yet they still have that, consistent kind of vibe to them and all that. But yeah, I think it's really just down to the writing. The writing of this movie is fantastic, where you look at the whole main cast of the Guardians, each of them have like some sort of arc or big emotional moment or big heroic moment, or for most of them, like they have all of these at some point in the movie. And I think the most impressive thing to me was like all these kind of minor or side characters, they also get some moment. I feel like I can look at every character and say like that was a great scene for them, or a great moment of growth or progression or something like that. And then even like the new characters, maybe one exception, but other than that, I think everyone really gets like something that we're gonna remember for years to come and stuff like that. In terms of the action and CGI, I think this is definitely a step up from where we've been in the MCU recently, and it has those like kind of classic Guardians set pieces and all that. And then there's one scene in particular. Of course, it's always a hallway, which is some really great cinematography and all that. And I don't think there's too much more I can say without spoilers. I'll just say the conclusion of this movie, the way it ends off, I thought was perfect. And this movie's also just very like cute and wholesome. It is also very sad, but I feel like it really ran the spectrum, the gamut of emotions on this one. So very excited to break it down.
Deerfield.
Yeah, I think that they really did supersede my expectations in many ways because I really didn't know what I was getting on board for in terms of the story. I feel like as far as the trailer goes, they kind of alluded to certain things, but I wasn't investing myself and deep diving into it to really kind of focus and try and like ruin it for myself. So when we got into this and we were enjoying the show, I was thinking, okay, there's lots of things that are happening here that I was not expecting. And I always do this thing where depending how far we get into the movie, I'm like, okay, here's this part from the trailer, and I always think like, okay, what parts from the trailer is still left in the movie, and how I try to like map it out, I guess, as I kind of go along. And I think overall, I like that when I watched the trailer and then I watched this movie, it's interesting how many scenes and sequences of that trailer actually fit into certain parts of the movie, and then you get to other parts like, oh, okay, like this is cool, like we're in this whole different dynamic now and engaging in this whole different narrative, which I really enjoyed. So yeah, and in terms of acting, I think everyone really delivered it. I loved the High Evolutionary. I thought he was just scary at times. I loved just seeing the Guardians and certain moments how they delivered very in-depth, either emotional or just whether it be humorous or whatnot. Just a lot of things. I will say too, this didn't feel the most humorous of the Guardians. There were those moments, but this felt the most real and serious tone and vibe I would say that I've gotten from them before. But the other ones were a lot more comedic, and I like that. I like seeing that kind of twist and take on them this go around. Yeah, it felt like a really good kind of closing note for the chapter, or our volume 3 that it's titled. So I'm definitely on the more positive end of it. I will say at the beginning, I feel like things were really, really quick, and that's probably my only real con. It was just like just going along in the narrative really, really fast and like chopping the scenes up quickly. But other than that, I think it was totally good. It was copacetic.
It's totally good and copacetic. There you go. So I said this on the predictions where this one for me was tough because I have such a high bar with James Gunn. I'm just expecting to be disappointment, and the good thing is I wasn't disappointed, so that's the main thing. I can't say I was blown away, but I can't say there was any maybe chance of me blown away just because the last two Guardians movies I felt like I gave them both 10s and stuff. I love those characters. I love the story, and they do it again here. I think the best example I'd say with this one is it's not a perfect movie, but it's a perfect finale for like this era of the Guardians and stuff like that, because it's comic books. Like even if none of these people were on the Guardians again, there's Guardians of the Galaxy with Venom and Ghost Rider, so you'll see some collection of that name or that title again. But for the core of where we were from starting in 2014 to now, almost 10 years later, it's easily MCU-wise best trilogy comic book. That's a very tough thing to think about because I already see that debate, and it is tough because it's like technically, like I think everyone like it's that versus the Dark Knight trilogy, and that's a tough thing. It's like I love those first two, but then James Gunn's more consistent, and that's just a testament to how good he is. And especially you look at what this man's done, like these three Guardians movies, the holiday special, Suicide Squad, Peacemaker. He's gonna be on some sort of Mount Rushmore when it comes to adapting these IP things. And I watched this, and not that I was doubting him, but even when they announced him as Superman, I go, like, is Gunn gonna be the right guy? And I watched this the whole time. I was like, man, he's gonna fucking just knock out of the park with Superman, because I think like these guys have alluded, this is definitely the most emotional. Like people thought Guardians 2 got emotional, especially the stuff with Yondu and everything. You see nothing yet when it comes to Guardians 3. Like they do some things that are very dark, very surprising. There's a few things in here I'm surprised they let them get away with. Not even just MCU, just like the actual MPA, like a rating board. There's one shot of a grotesque character. It's like I'm surprised they let so much of that be shown and it not get an R. So that's what I feel like you can see, that they let James Gunn go and do his thing. The cast is phenomenal. As far as a standout for the cast, it would be, I don't want to butcher the guy's name because I always do, but we reviewed Peacemaker and he was great in there. And the guy who played High Evolutionary, like he's fucking phenomenal here. He's a guy I want to see in a bunch of stuff. And funny enough, Mantis was my other big stand. I wasn't expecting to walk away from like, man, she just like, she was great in 2, but then we talked about the holiday special. That was her big showcase. But it's like, oh, she's probably getting a big showcase here because, you know, with 3, it's going to be all these bigger stakes. And no, Palm comes to kill it. She kills it. I don't know what it comes to kill. But yeah, I think it's everything you want if you are a fan of Guardians of the Galaxy, these characters, the franchise, the trilogy, whatever you want to call it. I think it does everything you want it to, maybe a little bit more and stuff like that. So yeah, and I think like kind of like Dylan said, there's all different eras of them because I watched the first 2 in preparation of this, and they all feel like they are Guardians-esque, but it's a new chapter, something different, you know. And it is one of these things that it is. I'm very excited to see what he does next, but it is sad at the same point of you're saying goodbye to these characters. You're also saying goodbye to James Gunn and Marvel, who you could probably argue is the most consistent when it comes to Marvel stuff, like these 3 projects and the holiday special. Like there's nobody until I see Coogler, Black Panther 3, like even the Russos, you know, Favreau, like they all to me have like ebbs and flows, but James Gunn is just, it goes all the way to the top and then it just kind of stays there. So yeah, it was, I think they hit a home run with this one, even though I have things that are cons, but nothing that overall brought it down so much. But things like, I don't know if that worked, or that character, I feel like we're all going to share that with that character. I feel like that's already the sentiment. There's a character, people are like, I don't know about this one. And it's like, yeah, maybe, but that's the thing that James Gunn's so good as, like everything else is so good. You kind of go, all right, whatever. I'll let you have it, you know? So anything else we want to talk about before we get into spoilers? How was it, you guys' theaters? Mine was, I'd say like 70%. I feel like it was the most full I've seen since Thor: Love and Thunder. I haven't been to a theater like No Way Home or the Batman yet, where it's like everything's full, but
Were you Grand 10?
that's Grand Tan, yeah.
That's
Where
it,
were you?
Taylor?
With
What?
judgment.
That's not
Yeah,
how
you
it
wanna
works.
Major
talk-
I was
judgment.
Grand 10, and there was probably 8 people, including myself and Madison in there.
Oh
Wow.
yeah, no, yeah,
That's
so yeah,
crazy.
there was everyone went to my 6:30 one day. Like, you know, that's
Yeah.
where they all were
My
at.
theater
yeah.
was, I want to say 100% full. It
Yeah.
seemed like it. Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
elbow to
Crazy.
elbow. I think I was
I-
in that 70% range.
I was
Yeah.
gonna ask, like, because this is kind of a non-spoilery thing, but
Mhm.
how do you guys feel like not the score, but like the, you know, there's always like the awesome mix volumes 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Where do you think this ranks in the across the 3 movies?
Third?
For me,
Yeah.
I put it in 3rd.
It's so tough because the last song they use in this movie is a top 10 favorite song of mine of all time. So that's where it's like when that hit, like I was starting to cry. We'll get to it in spoilers, but when that hit, I'm like, oh, like that's a weekly listen to me. Like that sing. So I feel like there's particular songs where I go, man, I love these songs so much. But then there's certain ones like, we'll get to, there's one battle where it's before the climactic battle and they use it. I'm like, I'm sick of movies using this song. You know, it's like people like when Mario and Shazam, they used You Need a Hero, or what's the name of that song? Like, you need a hero. Like, I just feel like it's like, man, I hear this song so much, and that's what happens. So I feel like this is, I would honestly say probably last, but then there's just some drops that were top tier. So maybe some particular song choices were top tier, but overall, I think I'm 2, 1, 3 for the soundtracks.
I think I'm probably the same. It's tricky because for a lot of this, we talked about how it's, you know, maybe less fun Guardians and more serious and stuff like that. And so they kind of just switch up the vibe with the music, but then there is still a lot of those kind of classic Guardians songs, the classic rock, the fun stuff, and I don't know. Yeah, I didn't feel like they hit quite as hard, and maybe they dip back into some of the old wells a little bit too, which is fun for callback, but at the same time, like I want some new stuff in there too. So I don't know.
Were you gonna say something, Kirk? No. No. Oh, no. I was gonna say, and I think I just like with 1 and 2, they were in that time capsule of, like, for me, my favorite music is 70s and 80s. So they hit in that perfect, like, hey, this is stuff like I'm listening to daily, or it's a song that I haven't maybe heard in a while, or ever. I'm like, oh, I like this song, right? Where there's more current stuff here now. One of the current ones is one of my favorite ones, but there's other stuff where I go, I wish we had more of that like classic 70s vibe going on right now. But I guess it kind of fits with the change up. So, all right. Well, let's get into spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie, come back later on. The episode will be back. Or if you don't care, we're going to get fully into it after our first break here. And then we're going to break down Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And we are back. So, where do we want to start on a positive or a negative? Where do you want to go? Where do you want to,
I feel like we got to start on a positive,
Okay.
but man, there's so many places to go. Who's got a great idea?
I was gonna start sad. I was gonna just bring up
Oh,
the
okay.
parts that just had me in tears. Which every single time it was the cage sequences, any like portion of just like the animal cruelty stuff. I was just like getting so attached with these like CGI characters. It was like borderline like human trafficking situation that they're in, and then they like brought in kids that were like in that situation. I'm like, holy fuck, this is such a dark movie, and like it just like I don't know, like I feel like there was a serious consequence to like these characters that I just didn't know about. Not that I didn't care about them. It's just like I just met these, I don't know, deformed animals or whatnot. And it's funny, I was kind of making the comparison to Fallen Kingdom and how that movie was supposed to make me feel attached to these CGI characters, or CGI creatures, I should say. And I felt nothing. I really did not care when they were just dying.
Right,
Sorry, spoilers
dinosaurs,
for
right.
spoilers for Fallen Kingdom. But in this one, like in the few scenes that we got, well, it was a decent amount of scenes
There's a
actually.
lot. No, yeah, we've got a solid, I think, like 45 minutes there of all that
Yeah.
lab stuff.
And like with the four of them, we got what were so we got Rocket, Floor, Lila, and
Teefs.
Bone Crusher, basically.
Yeah,
We still
for a
got that image.
second, for a
Bone
second,
Breaker.
yeah, for a second when they turned him like, fuck, are we getting Bone Breaker right now? Because like I'm like, James Gunn will do it. He'll fucking like he will do Bone Breaker, and then it was Aurorus, and I was like, okay, it's not him, but
Yeah.
like I was prepared, like man. People can't wait to listen to these X-Men retrospectives. We talk about Bone Breaker, but alas, this inspires Bone Breaker, you know?
Yeah. So I got so attached to those characters in those flashbacks that we got that like I was in tears every single time that we would like go and see them, and just like especially the first time that like Rocket gets thrown in the cage and he's just like so terrified and he's just like in pain. Tearing up just thinking about it right now, but like just like yeah, like the deformedness of him, like bleeding, just in pain. Oh my god. Like I knew that was coming to an extent because of the trailer, like just seeing Little Rocket in the cage with like the hand coming to grab him, but fuck, they got me so weak in those moments. And yeah, I was like ugly crying in the theater in all those moments. And yeah, they really tugged at my heartstrings. And again, like it just made me really hate the villain, obviously. But also just like at the end of the movie, it's not just like, okay, let's just get our main cast out of here. Like there's so many things to save and rescue that you can't just blow up this whole ship at the end. And I really loved how that was tackled. I think they did such a good job with that. Man, Star Wars, take notes on how to do flashbacks, because I loved all the flashback pacing in this movie too. It didn't seem
right,
like
the shows.
Like, I was
I forgot
hearing
about
like
the
some hammering or
shows.
something. It's like, oh fuck, we're going to a flashback. Like I
He was
thought
in
the
back of his own
flashbacks were
back of the
placed.
tank, right?
I thought they were placed so well throughout this movie. So
It's like, what are you talking about? Star Wars movies don't have flashbacks. It's like a
Yeah.
rule. I'm like, oh right, no, I forgot all these Disney
Sorry,
Plus shows
yeah.
exist now. Yeah.
I said a lot there, but yeah, I was definitely emotional in this movie.
Yeah, historically, if people listen a lot, they know that it's hard to get a tear out of me at a theater. Not because I don't get emotional, but to
Were
actually
you
get
laughing
the
at
tear.
these scenes? In the
No. I'm not some cruel beast. It's just
High
it really-
evolutionary.
it takes a lot to genuinely get the tears welled up for me. And strangely, the point when it actually hit for me was when Nebula heard Rocket's voice. That was when
wow.
like the tears actually hit me at that point. So I mean, all the other stuff was very emotional too, and I guess there's a part of it where I just you know what's gonna happen in those sequences. So I guess my body was a
Yeah.
self-defense mechanism is preparing itself, and I'm like, well, if all these characters we know are not around in present day, and Rocket hasn't gone to find them, obviously they're all dead. So I know this like moment's coming at some point. But yeah, it was when Nebula had that little reaction that hit for me for sure.
Yeah, I think those scenes just constantly had different moments where I'm just like not full crying but welling up. I think for me, my biggest point with that one was when at the end when Rocket he sees all the animals, but he brings out the raccoons and they're all on him and stuff like that, and he's looking at what he's gonna do. And that to me is the biggest point, because I don't want to repeat what these guys said, but when I talk about the MCU in Phase 4, and there's just been some, I hate how so many movies do the world-ending stuff. Technically, okay, yes, High Evolutionary does end like a world, but it's like a world he built. Like, it's a whole different thing, right? It's not, I need to create this ship so I can take over the world. He even says, like, I'm not trying to take over the planet. So, like, the crux of this film is to get you to care about Rocket, which we already do, but Rocket's past and these animals and these subjects, right? You care way more about the Guardians trying to save these people and subjects more than anything. The High Evolutionary was like, I have a bomb that could destroy Earth. You know, like that's where it's just like it's so much better where this film and these characters, you're rooting for them to succeed. Where if it's just another, okay, beam in the sky, which we've gone in Phase 4, sure, in Shang-Chi it's a dragon, and in Eternals it's a celestial. So they changed it from a beam, but it's still something's in the sky coming down. Now this was in the sky, but it wasn't about what's coming down. It was what's up there. And yeah, they did such a great job. Heartbreaking stuff. I didn't actually expect Lila to eat it there because she like I thought for sure they did a good job because when I was watching it about an hour through, I was like, Taylor, I'm like, man, all the trailer scenes we've seen of her are just a flashback, and that's when I kind of clipped in like, oh, she's not making it. But I was surprised when we started because you know in the comic book she makes it, and she's like a Raptor and stuff like they have very similar stories. So that was a heartbreaking. Even then, like that moment again when I'm talking about the rating when it's just Rocket like ripping up Evolutionary's face, like oh my goodness, like there's some sound effects going on here, and just even the content. It's like the same thing where I remember with the Dark Knight, that was the thing where the MPA was like. And the Conjuring had this too. It's like, well, we might rate you all, like give you our rating. It's like, why? And they're like, well, it's just because it's just like it's just so intense. Like you can't be PG-13, and that's how I felt this was. Like some of these scenes, like with the animals, and when those animals got shot, it's not overly bloody. There's not F-bombs. There's not nudity, but it just feels like like. I don't think kids should be watching this, like it just feels very deep, more deep trauma than anything else we've probably seen in the MCU. So I thought that was they did a great job with all that stuff, even though we knew it was coming in the trailers, right? We had all those footage to show us, but they still doubled down and just made it really work. And it's one of these great things too, of like when Rocket gets his name, it's not fucking like, oh, I'm alone. Solo. Like there's so people know how I hate this. Like to me, flashbacks can sometimes be the same as prequels where it's like, I'm not going to care about this stuff. We know the story, but the thing was we didn't know the story, and all the stuff felt very natural. It didn't just like get fed to you. It was paced very well. So the flashbacks were I have zero issues about them. And a good shout to, like I said, I gotta find out how to pronounce his name, Chukwudi. I don't know, because I remember Peacemaker. I was like, man, I don't want to. But Evolutionary, because a lot of those scenes he's just fucking acting alone, or he's acting with the green ball, or he's acting with Sean Gunn running around on the floor. Like he had so many of those scenes where he had to bring it because he's probably alone with a bunch of CGI things. And man, home run by that guy. So,
and he's still alive, right? They kept him alive.
It's like in a gray area, right? Because they kept him alive, but the ship blew up. Yeah. At one point, I thought I saw Drax carrying him, but they didn't cut to it later. But then
everyone deserves a second chance.
yeah. But then the ship did just like blow up, right? So I in my mind, he's dead. I think it's a kind of like. I'm not gonna kill you, but I'm not gonna say. I think he's alive.
I think he's alive too. Because like, what's the point of them stopping from killing him? Like,
because Rocket's just showing he's better than him. I think.
But if they leave him there to blow up, are they better than him? Because they just left him to die.
Or like Drax, like as soon as Rocket walks away, just like pops someone, just finishes the job.
I'm the destroyer. Again, back to Batman Begins. It's debate. Did he kill Ra's al Ghul by leaving him on the train?
Yeah, I don't think they left him alive in a way that's like, okay, Guardians of the Galaxy 4 is coming out next year, and we're gonna see part 2 of this story. But I think they just. Maybe they've learned that lesson over the years. Like, okay, we're gonna leave this
just
door
in
open
case.
now, so that we can't use this guy.
We might lose Kang. We know we're gonna have the High Evolutionary.
Hey, fuck! Make High Evolution. Make it the Evolutionary Dynasty. I'm ready. I'm down. He did a great job.
Title, yeah.
You can't call it the High Dynasty because that'll go to a whole different market. So,
Taylor, did the tears pop for you too at some point? Like literal tears or just close?
Fake tears even?
I didn't have literal tears.
Heartless.
Yeah, I was doing the drops. But I definitely could feel it stewing up inside me, especially when we got to the moment when Lila got shot, and just the way the High Evolutionary was just like mocking Rocket. When there was just like dead silence, and Rocket just starts like screaming. I was like, holy fuck! Like this is just everything he's known just crushed and taken away from him in that second. And yeah, the High Evolutionary is just frolicking around, like mocking him with it. It was just fucking wild. So yeah, that was when it kind of started to hit me. hit me again when they're basically I told Madison it's platform 9 3/4 basically when he's Harry's having his Dumbledore scene and Rocket's like, oh Lila, can I come with you? And Lila's like, you can, but not yet. So that was another moment that got me.
Yeah, so is Heaven just like canon in the MCU now? I mean, I know we had it in Love and Thunder. We had what the hell is it called? The like Viking afterworld.
Valhalla.
Valhalla.
Yeah.
But like, is Heaven? Was that also Valhalla, or is like Heaven actually exists? What do we think's going on there?
See all the other like Asgardians there.
Asgardians, yeah.
They look over Thor's.
It's time to come.
Yeah.
Yondu's over there too.
Yeah, no, I think there's some form of heaven. I think it's the same thing as Moon Knight. They talk about how like people have their different gods, so there's some form of heaven. But yeah, it was very definitely hollow setup of just, or Deadpool 2 too, where it's just like lots of white light, and they're kind of they're gonna get sucked back. And you knew that to me is okay. He's not dying here. Not at any point did I believe Rocket was actually gonna bite it, because I was like, man, would that have been bold? This the whole movie,
Yeah.
Rockets and flashbacks, and they kill him. And that's not a negative. I just like they're trying their best, but I'm like, I don't buy for a second this is happening right now. Just the way they put those scenes together. So
And that's what surprised me so much about those like near death scenes, because none of our main Guardians actually died.
Yeah.
But
Not
there
even
was a few
fucking
moments.
Craiglin. Not even Craiglin.
Not
He
even
made it.
Craiglin.
Craiglin
Yeah.
made it.
He didn't poke himself with
promoted
the
too, in
with the So like there was some emotional moments of like near death for sure, but I did not get choked up like at all in those scenes versus like the flashbacks, which is very impressive because it's a flashback. I know Rocket survives here, but still, just like all the pain that he's going through, they just did such a good job at portraying that again through a CGI character. Like this is the best Rocket has ever looked in a Guardians movie. There were so many close-ups of him, whether it was the flashback version, the opening sequence of him just like walking through nowhere, and there are a lot of close-up shots and just like all the detail on his fur and the textures. Like I was just right away from the get-go, I'm like, man, like this is the best he's ever looked. He wasn't looking so good after that on like Death's Door, but yeah, they just did such a good job with the CGI in my opinion on this.
That was another 2 thumbs up music drop when they had Creep open the movie, because I was like, I heard those beats like, oh man, here we go. And I like that it was very much like the beginning of a video game when you're just moving your character around, just going through the world, because he's not talking, no one's talking. You just like zoom around, you see, like you think about the first Guardians movie, it's Peter like getting the Power Stone. The second one's Groot dancing. This one's very just low key. It's not fancy at all. It's just kind of showing you, okay, where everything's going. It's getting you in Rocket's mindset, and it's a great parallel to the ending too, of like at the beginning he's keeping the music to himself, where at the end he's blasting it to everybody, right? So I really like that opening, even though it's like very just subtle and just not much to it. I'm sure on like it's something that I feel like if you were to read on paper, be like, this isn't that, like for the opening of Guardians, like this isn't that exciting. But when you see it on screen, like okay, and Creep, great choice. So
Yeah, it was just a different style too, with even opening with the Marvel logo directly into that, rather than having your classic like opening sequence, some action thing, and then popping into the Marvel logo, which
we had a Guardians Marvel logo too.
Yeah, exactly. Like it felt a lot more like the Endgame kind of scale. Like they definitely saw this as a special moment for the team.
Yeah. So, there's somewhere I wanted to go after Rocket, but I guess Kirkland, you brought that up, and I was gonna say I feel like we're all surprised, because I feel like we all predicted on the predictions that someone was gonna die, whatever we agreed or disagreed on some character.
Specifically Drax.
Specifically, somehow Batista keeps making it out of these things. He and Zoe Zadal, I said, hey, they're not coming back. But yeah, I was surprised, but at the same time, with how much trauma, even though it's in flashback form, they put Rocket and these animals and all these other people, it almost felt fitting, because at the end you're like, oh, none of them die, like you're almost expecting it, so you feel like cheated. But then once you get to me, and Dog Days Are Over, Florence and Machine, Florence, one of the greatest singers of all time, so that hit, I was losing. So that's why I came around. I wasn't against it, but I was like, okay, I can see the idea of like, you know what, I want to give these people a happy ending, and who knows what happens, because the MCU's the MCU's, and maybe one of these people die or whatnot. But in James Gunn's world of start to finish, they all survived their story, and the happy ending I thought was warranted. It felt like a good victory, so
yeah, like I was extremely shocked that no one died, but by the end of it, it was like this is the right way to go about it. Like I'm glad that they're all here, like basically splitting off, but together at least, because that's where it started. And yeah, like in hindsight, I'm almost upset. I was so so much putting my chips on that. At least one of them was gonna die. I
Well,
was saying
Drax,
like 2 or
come on.
3.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was saying multiple. I was getting vicious.
Drax we thought was the free bingo space, you know, 'cause,
Yeah.
like just with Batista and his comments, but you know, he's still kicking. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's definitely a lot of proof and like clues leading us to believe that. But as I said in the non-spoilers, like I was very happy with the conclusion we did get. And, you know, by a certain point in the movie, I was like, okay, I don't think anyone's dying at this point. And I was just like going to stew in it. And I really like I was saying, where everyone ended off. And obviously there's a lot of ways we could take that conversation. But I like what happened with Gamora and they didn't just necessarily wrap her back in with the team and collecting her there, and like Star-Lord's getting dropped off on Earth. He's going on this whole other journey. And, you know, for Drax too, man, just to have like that little note of, you know, you're not just a destroyer, you're a dad. That was like just such a cute, wholesome. That's where like those cute, wholesome moments came from for me a lot, was with the ending and how they, like, yeah, this very well could be like the last time we see Drax. Like maybe he'll pop up again at some point. I feel like the way they did this was in a way where it's open enough for a lot of these characters to come back, but they don't intend to use most of them in Avengers, Kang Dynasty, and Secret Wars, or whatever ends up happening with those next Avengers movies. Maybe with the exception of like Star-Lord, maybe Rocket or something like that. But yeah, was really, really happy with literally every single character's conclusion. Like they just nailed it across the board.
Yeah, it's just so funny that even at the end, because we don't gotta say the post credits at the end, because they are fun, but they're not the usual MCU. Like, oh, they're selling the next
post
thing.
credits.
Yeah, like, but it was very funny. Of like the Guardians are fully together. They got their new team. They got their post credit. Cool, that happens. We move along. Star-Lord, which I actually like, and we'll get into like where he is. I like the joke and everything, but he gets the legendary Star-Lord will return. So it's like, we're not sure about the rest of these characters, but like Chris Pratt's definitely coming back for Avengers. Like that's
You guys
them to
remember
me.
Mario, he's coming.
Yeah, Garfield, Owen from Jurassic. Like, I just love that. No, we're keeping Chris Pratt. Like, he will somehow, because the good thing is he is on Earth, right? So maybe he could be a fucking Avenger, right? Like, they could recruit him. Like, why wouldn't they? He's good at stuff. He has gear and everything. Like, so I found that funny. And yeah, I like both post credits. I like the, you know, seeing the new Guardians and everything, and that was good. And
Was that little girl supposed to be magic?
no. I don't know who that was, but it's not magic.
I was
for
curious
sure.
about that too, actually, because I was like,
That'd
this
be a
white
massive
hair,
change,
looking
yeah.
magic-like. But then
Yeah.
I'm like, what's going with the eye?
I know, that's what I
recognize
was
that.
wondering too. I'm like, did magic do that? No,
I
don't
swear
know.
he said her name, but I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know, it was muffled or something like that.
She
Did any of
definitely
you
some
catch that?
comic character because they just highlighted her so much. I'm like, they're not putting some rando. The one thing I will say, just like a minor disappointment. So we got Howard the Duck back in the poker scene.
Mm-hmm.
I was waiting for the last battle to give him some pop-off scenes, nothing. And I thought, well, for sure, at least he'll be a member of this new Guardians. Nothing. Like, I hate that. There's my only complaint against you, James Gunn's whole trilogy. Like, you brought us Howard the Duck in the first post-credits. Like, oh, what are we going to do? Like, I thought, why not even give him one action scene when nowhere gets invaded? You know, I really was hoping for that. But no, Howard the Duck just continues to be on the side burner, you know?
I got my
No.
points. I'm happy with it.
Yeah, you get the unannounced ones, unless hopefully S-Bobs prove us wrong that he appeared in some sort of trailer, like his arm or something. But yeah, so maybe in King Dynasty, Howard Duck will get his moment, but not here. So
Did Seth Green make the movie for you, Taylor?
Seth Green make the
Was,
movie.
was this movie good because of Seth Green?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I went to go see it because let's go check out the new Seth Green movie.
didn't you know he was in it too?
God damn. That totally derailed me with what
I know, I'm sorry.
We were talking
Don't
about
send me
we were
to-
talking about deaths,
May the fourth be with
stuff
you
like
today.
that. You know?
Right, yeah. I was honestly anticipating like a couple deaths. I wasn't gonna go as bold as you, Kirkland, like multiple heads rolling or anything like that. But
Rolling,
Half the
wow.
members.
Rolling,
I'm
yeah.
snapping half the members.
Thanos is back.
But I'm glad that we got no one being killed. I'm glad that we got everyone is safe and sound and going on their own journey. I really, really am happy with that. I was not
Except
expecting
for the
team-
planet full of people, Taylor.
That sucks.
respect on
Yeah,
this.
I'm glad I did not draft
Counter-Earth?
any of them.
Yeah, yeah. I too bad Kirkland didn't. That would have like bounced out his Kang points for the end
Bounced
credit.
it out,
If you
yeah.
would have counted the characters from
All
Counter
those animals are gonna live. That's my bold
Yeah.
prediction going into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that I was not anticipating them to just segue off and go on their own paths, because I was amazed like how many like sequences we were hitting and thought, oh wow, this movie's very long, but it doesn't feel long in a bad way. Like I love how we're just tackling all these different things and hitting everything. And so when we got to that last scene where they're just diverting on their own paths, I was getting excited. I thought, oh, like Rocket's the new leader. Okay, cool. Nebula's gonna build the town. Drax is gonna help out. Like all these different narratives that they're kind of creating for themselves. I really liked it, and it's so cool in retrospect to see where they came from over such a massive journey over, I guess, 6 movies, if you include the Christmas special. But now where we are here, it's just such a massive array of development with our characters, and I'm glad that they have all pulled through and they haven't died. I will say before I forget that when we got Chris Pratt at that scene, just he went back home and met his grandfather. I jumped because I grabbed Madison. I'm like, is that Kevin Feige? Because it looked like a
my God.
Hey,
It crossed my
looked
mind,
like-
Taylor.
It
It's the
looked
same
like
actor from
What?
the first 2 movies.
It crossed my
I
mind.
know, but I didn't see the first 2 movies
Imagine
for a
that.
while. I haven't
Kevin
watched the first
Feige
2 for a while.
cast himself as
It
Peter
looked
Quill.
like it that he put old prosthetic.
You're not alone, Taylor. You're not alone, Taylor.
Thank
Once we
you
got the
for
close up,
including-
I'm like, hey, that's not Kevin Feige.
Yeah,
But
yeah, the
when
close-up,
we first
that's
saw
it.
him, I'm like, oh
When
my
I
God.
first
Fill in
saw
the
him, 'cause
comments if you
he
two
put
saw
the-
that. That's
he
crazy.
put like
I don't
the
know how you
newspaper
feel.
down or whatever, like super chill. I was like, oh my God, Feige. But it was not him. I checked the credits. So.
Everything in my mind was telling me that
No.
can't be him, but still, it like crossed my mind. In
It'd
that
be
moment.
so subtle.
Old
Like, I
man
don't know.
Feige.
I
It's
don't
like
be
I don't want to be in
so
She-Hulk. I
subtle.
want to be Star Lord's grandson.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what that's.
I was just
that
gonna bring
those
that
were
up
the
to him.
red
Like
flags.
he turned on She-Hulk for Star Lord's grandpa.
Oh yeah. Fun fact though, I mean, if you guys saw his newspaper, it was the Kevin
Mm-hmm.
Bacon abduction, which is funny.
Mhm.
Yeah, Kevin Bacon shines for that. And well, it's funny because you bring up the movies, and that's where we think of this as a finale. And even myself, I got in that mode of, oh yeah, some of these characters have to die. But when you really think about it, take the holiday special out. Guardians 1, they lose Groot. This is Groot's son. Yeah, he's back, but still, they lose Groot. Guardians 2, they lose Yondu. Infinity War, they lose Gamora. Every time we've seen them in the movies, they've lost somebody, And yeah, sure, Gamora comes back, but as we see, it's a very different one. So I feel like this is the first time they actually, like, win-win, like they get the full-on win, not a win, but we lost this person along the way, or we damaged this thing. It's like, no, they got the full win. Everyone's around. Yeah, they might be separated. I think some were a little just kind of like, I feel like it wasn't a clean break, in the sense like I felt it was just a very easy, like, well, I gotta find myself. Mantis like, I gotta find myself, and well, I'm gonna build a city, and Drax gonna build it. So they all like worked. I just thought like, okay, it feels very convenient that all these characters decide, no, we all gotta split up right now. Especially like they did just get back from the snap, and a lot of things have changed. I feel like I'd love to see what the timeline is from when they got back to the snap to this point, because they're still setting up nowhere and stuff. But it's fine for me as like a finale. I'll take it over them dying and stuff. And yeah, Mantis is going somewhere. Just
Yeah, I was gonna ask, what do you guys think she's gonna be up to?
no idea. It was really weird because I thought she's like, I'm gonna go back to like my race of people, like, but it's like, I'm just gonna go walk. She's pulling a Jules from Pulp Fiction. She's gonna go walk the earth with her fucking creatures that were in Guardians 2. That was a fun callback to that, but
Mhm.
She's not even
Yeah.
leaving nowhere. She's
Those
just
are
going to be
cool.
going the other side with her creatures.
just the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, how do you travel those 3 things? I don't know.
Yeah, I imagine
Large
they can't
cargo.
fly.
Well, they travel on their own. Remember, like through space, because in Guardians 2, didn't they just it like blasted out and landed there, so it was able to travel through space.
Yeah, maybe
she
they
could
can
ride
teleport something. Well, she was riding them already, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, if that's the case, yeah. So no, she's walking around until they do or do not get a contract for her from those Avengers movies, So
There was a moment when they like released the cage or something, and like the emotional music's going up when she's like approaching it to calm it down. I 100% thought it was just gonna chomp her like completely. I didn't. I didn't think it was gonna kill her.
Too,
I think it was gonna kill her for sure, but I thought it was just gonna like
Feige.
engulf her, and that like 100% because I don't know. It
Wow.
just seems so easy. It's like she's approaching it. I feel like so many times in Guardians they've like set me up this way, where it's
I
like, oh,
absolutely
this is a nice
agree.
moment. Yeah. Okay, Taylor, I'm not alone there.
like, did you think
You
she was
and I were
gonna
thinking
get
the same.
killed?
No, just totally
No.
humorous, right?
Yeah, yeah,
humor.
exactly.
Okay, okay.
how does that
would've
thing
been bold
humorously
for-
chomp you though? That's a lot
Just
of
eat her
teeth.
It ate
completely,
Drax in
and then she's just
Guardians
inside
too,
of it,
so-
and then she comes out covered in goo or something. Yeah, it makes
When
sense.
she's in like closer to its brain, she can control it more with her powers or something.
There you go.
Yeah.
Talking through it, that could be funny. But
Mm-hmm.
In hindsight, I'm glad they didn't.
It's nice.
I'm glad they went the way they went and stuff.
Yeah.
So, and then you got funny with Nebula, because Nebula, I feel like you'll see Karen Gillan again. It's gonna be funny whenever they go back to this town and they'll be like, "Where's Drax?" and whatever reason they got to give for him not being there. But sure.
Speaking of her, there was the moment when she was controlling the ship. I thought that was the end for Nebula. When she
with
uses her
yeah.
arm and she's like, "I'll control it from this side." I'm like, "No, we're losing.
I'm with
We're
you on
losing
that. I thought
Nebula
she was
here."
sacrificing herself for sure.
I was so scared because I think this is my favorite movie that she's been a part of. Like I've grown to like Nebula the more I've seen her, but this one I feel like she really had a lot of moments to showcase. Just like her resilientness. That's not a word. Resolve, I guess, is a better word to use. Of just like she gets her head just snapped back, and then just like the way that it just like it just comes back like she's I don't know, a toy
She's got
or
some
something.
nanotech now, right?
Yeah, and her
those
arm,
like those jetpack thing.
Rocket
And, like,
upgrader.
Yeah, the way that she would like just use her arm to cut into whatever, and then like turns like a suction cup. It's just so versatile. Like I loved her move set, I guess I can call it here. So I really, especially because like at this point I still thought we were gonna lose a member, but I'm really glad it didn't go that way because I want to see more of her because yeah I'm at an all time high for Nebula. But it seemed like it was there for sure. Just the line of like, I'll control it from this end. She had like a look to someone. It seemed like one of those final looks, but alas,
She
we
had
didn't go there.
she had the razor fists thing going on, like you mentioned there, Kirkland. That's pretty cool.
Let's just call it the Nebula thing. Let's never talk about Razor Fist ever again. Shang-Chi. Top 10 MCU movie with Razor Fist. Come on, people. Not
Great
Razor
movie.
Fist. Bring that down. But yes, I didn't get that vibe at that moment. I don't know why, which is like it feels completely right. That should have been it. But I thought she was at least making it to the final showdown with the boss, which I was kind of surprised. And not that I needed more. It would have been good to get a little bit more, but I was surprised how easily they beat the High Evolutionary of like Rocket like depowered him for a second and then they just pinball him and it was it. Like I was waiting for High Evolutionary to make one comeback and then them to get back on him, but they pretty soundly defeated the guy. So that's not much of a con for me. Like it's fine because I like the last boss we had Ego, who was a whole plant, so that was bigger, and Ronan, there wasn't much of a fight. So it's like somewhere in the middle of those. I was just more caught off guard and surprised. And again, we don't know if he's dead, I guess, but they did rip off his face, that's where I was like, hey, how are they gonna do this? I was like, hey, I saw a skin tag. I know she's going for it, so I'm like, okay. Probably gonna be like very robotic, like that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, okay, you're gonna get lots of shining metal, but no, he's just looking like the transition from Hugo Weaving to Red Skull, like somewhere in the middle, like before like the pus dries over and everything. And that's why I was surprised, like he had no nose, he was still wet and
Harvey
juicy. Yeah, but full faced Harvey Dent, so they don't call him Two Face, they call this guy One Face, like or No Face.
It's like the same line.
So I was surprised when they got that shot. I was like, I don't know how that got past the board. Luckily, it wasn't on the screen for too long and there wasn't gushing blood, but just even down to the nose. It's like Red Skull's different. It's like he has no nose and it's a bone, but it's like red and a little cartoony. This is just you full on see this guy's nose.
That could legitimately scar you for many years to come. So
Yeah.
Well,
I
I
was
mean,
surprised by that too.
this teaches kids too. Like, don't go near wild animals like
Don't
wild
rip
raccoons,
people's
'cause
faces
they'll
off.
they'll fucking go at you.
I did feel bad for the one of the nowhere people saving the raccoon, and the raccoon was fucking her face
Yes.
up.
Feel
And I was
bad
like,
for her.
Well, that
Yeah.
was the monkey. That was the little.
either
monkey
way,
thing.
I feel it's kind of like that
monkey.
babysitter in Jurassic World that just gets killed. You're like, she's a good
Yeah.
person. Like,
Hopefully, it was a monkey that didn't have too many, I guess, nails going on there, so it wasn't too bad. But
yeah, I was like, I was. There's a weird choice for me of like she's a regular helper. Why are we fucking her face up? But that's fine. But
speaking of
Maybe she's
fake
a
out
bad
deaths,
person.
for definitely a good few seconds there was like, okay, I guess Star-Lord is dying. I was like, I did not see this coming, but I just didn't know someone could survive such a thing. I thought when his face was pussing out, looking like
Oh, really?
someone from
He's
Prey, I'm
part
like, this
God,
guy is
Not anymore.
100% dead.
he's not
Well,
part God
he
anymore.
doesn't have the power, but doesn't it's like he's still able like he doesn't have
That's
the power, but
He's
As
always
so-
had
as-
to use the mask, though.
As I
right?
just watched the movie
Yeah.
today, Taylor, they say when Ego goes, everything goes. So he loses all. He's just
Also,
a Terran after
Remind me,
Ego's
did his
gone.
mask get destroyed at some point? I feel like I just realized in this moment that I didn't see the mask
Yeah.
once.
Taylor, you must have been pissed. You didn't get to see that mask at one point in this movie at all.
I thought it was in the trailer, but maybe I'm just imagining it. Yeah, it's
I
too
don't
bad
think
they
so.
did away with the mask.
Did it
Yeah.
get destroyed in a project that I can't recall?
Well, I think it's been destroyed, but then like in the next movie, he has another one. So I feel like
Yeah,
it's like he can
okay.
build. I was wanting to see the mask with the comic accurate suits. I was looking very forward to that
Oh,
because,
yeah.
like, again, I was a big fan of them doing that already. But in the movie, like, oh, these suits are working big time. I love the color scheme, so I was surprised they did do the mask once, but yeah.
I agree with you, but I think I'm sick of characters constantly like turning on and off their
That's
helmets.
fair, yeah.
So I think maybe I've seen enough of that. But I mean, I was like, well, obviously Adam Warlock's going to save him, but I'm like, I just did not think that anyone could survive such a thing. But I did kind of forget about the god-ishness of him. So I guess
No, that's out though. It's out at this point. That's what I'm telling you. After Ego died,
still
it's
got like something.
no,
to
it's
fill.
gone. They
got it.
clarify.
Yeah.
Once
He
Ego's
didn't have
gone-
the power at all when he held the Infinity Stone. That was
Yes,
without
he
being Ego's
did.
power, though. He wasn't tapped into the planet. He was just
No,
raw
no.
energy.
But
Just
Ego's
No.
still alive, so he was like the battery,
Yes, Ego.
juicing him up.
Thank you, Kirkland. Yeah, because at the end of Guardians 1, they talk about that. They go, yeah, something's
Well, then,
off with
Travis,
your
I think
DNA.
It's a plot hole. Then he should
he's
have
got
died.
genetic, like it's in his DNA.
Oh no, I
his
think it is. The
genes.
second his face was like, it was like, okay, he's dead. I didn't believe it because same thing. I think Chris Pratt's sticking around for like another 20 years if they want. Like he's still a young dude. Like I think he'll die in a crossover. But so I didn't believe he was dying. I guess for me it's weird because it's a callback, but it's just kind of I feel like I was like I wish there was a different way, or I wish Warlock saved him faster because in one we have he saves Gamora, does that same thing. His face is freezing. In Guardians 2, his face is freezing. Then Yondu saves him, and then this is like his face freezing. So for me, it was like, okay, 3 times in a row. I wish there was another way to save him. I'm kind of over putting Star-Lord in the ice and him like looking like he's gonna die, and some character saves him. So and even then, like Warlock just coming in with his little
Yeah,
like
I was like,
pointer
is that
finger.
like it's like that?
It was the
classic-
painting.
Yes,
yeah.
it's the painting. Yeah, exactly. But I was like,
And I didn't
all
know if he was
right.
gonna like give him some golden juice power. To,
Yeah,
like, give him
that's
some
what I
life
thought, but
or
he just,
something,
like-
and then he just very slowly grabs him and
Yeah.
like sends him back. So it was
So-
kind of weird the way that was shot.
Yeah, so for a little clunky for me, but I got what they're going for, So I like the shot of Groot like putting his his wood out and that freezes and breaks. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
cool. That was a nice touch. So
That in that moment when it didn't work, that's where it like crossed my mind. I'm like, holy fuck, they're actually gonna kill him here. But like, I didn't get emotional because like in the back of my mind, I'm like, they can't be doing this. Like it's Chris Pratt. He's gonna be around for
Star-Lord
so
will
long.
return, I know it.
Yeah. Like he's got all this plot armor. Like they just want him for Avengers and all these things. So
yeah,
I was confused in that moment. Shay was beside me. She was totally like believing that he was gonna die. So I think definitely worked for just people that maybe aren't paying attention to the
Yeah.
the castings and all that stuff. But and like I just overheard some other reactions behind me. People were like seriously gasping, like
What the
Endgame level
fuck?
gasping.
And then they gave him the ending that I've literally been asking for. Go back to the retro Guardians 2 and Endgame. I was so pissed for the first time ever. Star-Lord lands on Earth, doesn't say shit all about his family. Like it's just like this big deal. I'm like, man, we're just never gonna get this. The holiday especially goes back to Earth, or I guess he didn't go back to Earth, but characters went. I'm like, man, they're just never gonna do this. So 15 minutes in, when Mantis is like, oh, what about your grandpa? It's like, fuck yes, we're gonna get like that bow tie. I feel like that's a perfect way to end the movie. Like, how do we start this whole thing? Is at the hospital saying goodbye to his mom, and the last person he sees is his grandpa, and then boom. So the ending of this, and that got me, as I talked about, Travis told you, like I lost my grandma last week, so that was like an extra like hit punch. Like, oh my god, like seeing that reunion, and it was. I'm very happy. That's all I needed. I didn't need like a 15-minute conversation, just a idea of getting home. And I actually really like the end credit of, I thought for sure some actor was going to walk out as that 40-year-old son. I'm like, man. And for some reason, I'm like, it's going to be fucking Jack Black. I just know, like in my mind, it didn't happen. I guarantee in Guardians 4 or Avengers, we're going to meet that 40-year-old like brother-in-law or stepbrother, I guess. But, or no, what would it be? God, what would be the, so it's his grandfather and he's a step-grandmother and it would be her son. So would it be like, would that be a step?
Oh my god.
Step
yeah,
cousin, I
bro.
guess, something
Step
like
uncle,
that.
Is that a thing?
Something. Yeah, I guess a step uncle. Yeah. So, but either way, so I was very happy they gave him that ending. I thought that was a bow tie, and I think that is actually what got me the most. Next to the rocket thing, that was just for real life reasons, but also just like that was a emotional beat I've been wanting to see since 2014. Really gone back to, and I'm happy again. Everything I wanted, checked it off. So.
Yeah, Travis, I didn't know that your grandpa passed away. Sorry to hear about that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
all
very
right.
sorry.
She was older, but yeah, you know.
It was weird though seeing Star-Lord walking down a suburban street
Yeah.
with regular clothes, because obviously he was walking down the Counter Earth street, so we saw a bit of that. But yeah, it was a bit strange, but also
It's Chris Pratt.
Yeah,
He's just
yes.
wearing Chris Pratt clothes.
Yeah.
It was
Jurassic
kind of
World 5
cathartic in a
coming out.
way. So I did like that end point for him, and very curious to see where he ends up next.
What did you guys think of the first MCU F-bomb drop on Counter versus Chris Pratt there?
I thought it was fucking phenomenal.
Is that the first
Yeah.
MCU
Yeah.
F-bomb? Wow.
Yeah, my theater popped big time. I got spoiled that was happening, but there was a debate because the version I had seen is that it was bleeped, and someone's like, "Oh, we're getting it," and then there was a TikTok of him saying "freaking," but I was like, So that's what I mean. Like they really let him go for it because no f bombs ever happened in the MCU. They let Gunn have it, and Chris Pratt. So I was, it was good. Like I don't need it in
She-Hulk?
everyone.
I thought She-Hulk did at some point.
No, this is the history making. Like I don't need Peter Parker dropping this and Spider-Man 4
the
and stuff like
flying
that. Yeah,
Well,
but it's good to have.
Yeah, I guess I never noticed that before, but the classic PG-13, like you're allowed one F-bomb. It's curious that they haven't used it. Obviously, it's not per cinematic universe; it's per movie, so they could be using it more. But I feel like almost to compensate, they toned down some other dialogue. There was a lot of screw yous in this movie, and maybe that's classic for the Guardians. But I felt like some of the people yelling at each other was even toned down. So I don't know if they were like, okay, we're going to add one F-bomb, but to compensate, we got to tone down the rest of the dialogue, take out as many shits and asses and whatever.
Yeah,
like
for
other
sure.
swear
Because I
words
think
as
Guardians
we
2, they said shit a lot. There was a lot of shits where it's like,
They said-
okay.
They said bitch in this one, which I was not expecting.
Yeah.
And they said
Drac-
asshole.
You weren't expecting asshole?
I wasn't expecting asshole.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure
I'm
What's
Drac
the
always
value of
expecting
that swear
asshole,
word, Taylor?
you know?
That's like
Yeah.
a 1-pointer, I think.
Yeah,
F-bomb's
that's like a
like a
grade
10-pointer.
3.
I will say, I mean, this is the first
Jackass.
F-bomb in the MCU. I did like it. I think it worked for that moment. And of course, I love Nebula as well. So her just struggling to figure out this door. I almost would have expected her to smash the window. That seems more like a Nebula thing to do than.
I thought she was
going
gonna
to
rip the whole door off.
She's
yeah.
messing with the little keyhole. Yeah, it was good.
I can't remember what she said in that moment, but when they're trying to talk to the Bat people and Star-Lord and the Batwoman are off the side doing their thing, and Nebula finally takes a drink of the drink, and she's like, God, that's delicious. Like, whatever it
The
was.
blue
I can't-
drink. It
Yeah,
was the
whatever
blue
the exact line was, that's maybe my funniest line. Just the way Karen Gillan, like, delivered, like, oh, that is delicious. Like, just off in her own little world.
Because
you
isn't
know?
that like right when he shows the picture too? So it's almost like she's reacting to seeing.
Yeah,
the picture.
yeah.
Damn, that's good. But yeah, you see her
Yeah.
taking the drink.
So and that's where it is again. That's what I wasn't missing. I definitely not like the last, especially Guardians 1. I remember Guardians 1 seeing that like my ribs were hurting at the end of that, and I didn't need that from this movie. So there is less laughs. There's less like I feel like I go, oh, there's this moment, but there was some good laughs had. But I think the Nebula one and maybe like Drax again as usual. Drax just 100% works for me. Like all his humor and stuff. Talk about swear words. I feel like he said the word idiot like 1,500 times.
Moron,
like
idiot,
yeah,
yeah.
Midian or that was like, hey, that's all you can say this go around, Batista. You know, no shits, no nothing, but
Yeah.
all of his stuff just works for me. You know,
And I mean, once again, like I love the dynamic between Drax and Mantis that started in Guardians 2, and that was a very specific vibe there in terms of just like not being able to understand each other. And then obviously the holiday special is so fun because that's just their project. They just get to go have some fun adventure, and to have like kind of a trilogy of those two characters getting a bunch of scenes together, like their humor, they're like. Funny enough, they seem more like brother sister than Mantis and Star-Lord do, and I just love that dynamic when Mantis is like really putting her foot down against Nebula and just like calling him stupid, and he's like, "You really think I'm stupid?" And she's like, "Yes, I think you're stupid." All that dialogue in that, I guess that's on the ship at that point. All of it was great. I love that dynamic.
and I love it. Really hurts his feelings, so she makes him forget it. You know, like because she felt like
Yes.
she wanted to like tell him
She's
that, but
ethical, and then sometimes she's not with her powers.
Yeah.
I love it.
and she's not ethical in the way of like, well, this is just gonna really hurt him, so I'm gonna take it back. And then that ending when Drax just waving and he's crying, and Mantis is not. You would think it's the other way around, that she'd be the most one, but she's very like straight. She's like not cold, but just like has it together. And Drax is starting to tear, which I don't think we've seen Drax cry in any of the Guardians movies. You know, like I think we've seen
I
him
guess we never
upset,
got
but
flashbacks of his family dying.
exactly. Yeah, I'm sure it's definitely happened. But for us, and then obviously he dances at the end. So he says, well, at the beginning again, he says only idiots dance, and well, he proves that he is a lovable idiot. And they did a good thing because I feel like Gunn specifically, because I saw so much of like he's called Drax the Destroyer and he had no fight scenes in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, which is a true thing. But I feel like in this one, like, okay, he's gonna fight Warlock, he's gonna be in the hallway fight, he's gonna fight these things. I feel like Gunn was like, okay, we're gonna make sure Drax has like a lot of action scenes to send it out, and good stuff there.
Yeah, I mean, he's not like he doesn't have fun powers, so it's like I don't know. What do you want him to do? Just like punch stuff. He has like knives. He can like.
He could use the knives more. I think he threw it.
Even in Ultimate Alliance 3, though, it's like, yeah, this is like the most boring moveset. But like, what else are you gonna do? Like, I don't know. He's
my
just
favorite
big and
part.
strong.
My favorite part's about him when he just screams in the face of danger. He's so resilient. He just goes right at it, no fear.
Sure.
I like when he laughs. That's when it gets me. When
Yeah. Oh man, that was a good moment for me when he gets the guy. It's like a goat driving the motorcycle. He just clotheslines him, and Matt's like, "Where are you going? You're not going to the ship." No. I'm gonna ride back
down
to our
the
ship.
street,
Yeah. Oh, just down the street over there. Yeah. Get on. And gets on, and then as they're driving away, you just hear Mantis Drax, and it's just like
just her legs are just she doesn't know where to put them. They're just
Yeah.
like sprayed out in the air. Yeah.
And he just has this like shit-eating grin of like, yeah, we're gonna go. But again, that shows also if they didn't go, they were better to not. Classic Guardians are always screwing up. At the end, they don't. They all get together. But if they would just stay at the ship, they probably would have just got away. At the end of the day, it kind of works out better because one, they got to save a bunch of innocent people and creatures, so it works
Nebula
out that
would
way.
have died if Drax wasn't there.
Yeah, Nebula would have died.
Likely.
Yeah, and then again, there was a good scene there of like you're talking about of Nebula, Drax, and Mantis all pointing out each other's weaknesses and why they're not that vital to the team. But then in the third act, they all show why they're vital to the team. Mantis saves them multiple times with their powers. Drax is the only way to get to communicate to the kids, which is a great line when he goes, "Oh, you didn't ask me if I could speak to these kids," because they're just kind of like it's kind of like in a real world thing. Like, don't just assume people. Doesn't matter what intelligence level they are, don't just assume, because if he doesn't talk to these kids all die because the spaceship crashes into the wall, right? So I like that finale showed again of the unison of Guardians work together, but also just how they are important to the team and why they work together well and stuff. So
I was kind of confused about that he knew that language though, because I was under the impression that they knew like some language that was created by the High Evolutionary. But if it was not, it was some other language that obviously Drax, who is not someone who's studying, you would think, knows this language. But then, like, why was that language not in whatever Mantis's translator is? So that felt a bit weird to me. I don't know if there was really much thought into, like, the actual reasoning of it all, or it was more just to get that moment, which did work for me. But
yeah. He's got a good monkey/robot, too.
Yes, yeah, a good monkey robot. Adam Warlock. So this is, I think the one character for me that I like him because I like Will Poulter and I think he has some funny moments and I like his look, but he's like the one character that I guess I could see the version of this movie work just as well if you worked around and wrote that character out. And then even then, again, we talked about, okay, they're probably going to get him in the Guardians team, and like, yes, that is the case in the post-credit, but are we ever actually going to see that Guardians team doing anything, or is that just more of a fun post-credit, and then the next time these characters come back, you actually get everyone back together and stuff? So I guess I don't know what to think about him yet, because I didn't dislike him, but he's maybe the one character, even Cosmo or Kraglin. I feel like they all have something more meaningful in terms of story and writing, or even just humor than Adam did, who was more just like a kind of a midline, I guess, throughout the whole thing.
Well, let's break that down after the next ad break. All right, we're back. Kurgan Patzer. What do you think about Warlock?
Yeah, I really liked him. I feel like I got more of him than I was expecting. I feel like when we were talking about it, I just really felt like he was going to be in there for like a fight, and then just this is his introduction to the MCU, and then we'll meet him again in a future date.
Oh, really? You thought just get the fight? And
I really thought it was going to be a minor appearance, and I'm pleasantly surprised he wasn't just in his suit the whole time. You know, we got to see Will Poulter shredded.
He worked hard for that body.
Absolutely, we got to see it, and he was nice
like
and gold.
Again, they swear these actors, like, good on them for getting them in shape, but the dude's in one fucking shot with his shirt off. It's like he didn't
one
need to
shot.
work.
He had like no shirt for a good portion of the movie.
I guess it
after he
melts
tried
off
to
a
save his
little.
mom.
but it's just like, yeah, which is supposed to be his sister, but I don't know. I felt like the
Wait,
amount
who's
of
the sister?
whatever her name is,
The
who he was
sovereign
mother.
lady.
Yeah, but in the comics, it's actually his sister. They're brother and sister.
They've changed things before. Why does
No,
that
I
matter?
know. Oh, don't
Lila
worry. With
didn't
Warlock,
live
they've
here.
changed a lot, and comic fans are gonna be fucking pissed with this adaptation. I'll tell you that much. Yeah, I just feel like he didn't need to. Good for him getting Jack, but he was in that golden suit for most of the time. That was just all plastic. It's like, okay.
It's for the next project. He's gonna be shirtless.
Yeah.
That's his new outfit.
Will Poulter gonna stay like this for another 3 years till get the King Dynasty? Okay, all right, just eating all his chickens and stuff.
But yeah, like with the character itself, I'm glad they went a more comedic route because I love Will Poulter in comedies, and I got to see some of that shine through. And I think they still pulled off just the power that he actually has. Like he really feels like a Superman type character with just his pure, just unrecoilness, if that's even a word. I'm making up words tonight. When he's fighting the Guardians, he's just like an imposing force, and the way that he just left Nebula, like literally just like everything's broken. The way he just one arm snapped Mantis's arm. I know she's not like a super powerful character like strength wise, but fuck, what a visual that was. So I really like just the blind soldierness of him, like in his introduction, but I also like the comedy that sunk through. I have no idea about this character like at all. I think I googled him once when we found out that Will Poulter was playing him, so I am excited to find out more because although he is a part of the Guardians, I still think there's a lot of personal juice to squeeze out of him and just find out more, because they did mention some things about like his cocoon. That's supposed to be like the
You
sun,
hatched
right?
him early.
He's supposed to be like in the sun. Is that how that works? And then they cocoon him out or something. like that?
No, the cocoon was there at the end of Guardians 2, just sitting at a platform. They're just baking him
Oh
and
yeah,
stuff.
that's
so,
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we got the information that I guess the evolutionary hatched him too early and stuff. That's why he's very childlike
Yeah.
and everything. So, yeah, for
I'm
me,
the warlock.
it's yeah. I'm going to be the warlock. Yeah. Luckily I still think he's used like well enough, and the rest of the movie is so good that it didn't get a point off for me as far as my rating goes. If I was rating this as like critically though, definitely I'd be taking some points off with this. And not in the comic book stuff, because I'm not even that big a fan of Warlock. I'm not a big fan of God like, overpowered characters. That's what he is. He is a Superman type. His character personality is probably much more like Gandalf the White. So that's why I know like people are not hardcore fans that and I do feel a little bad because you heard rumors about him, and then they introduced him Guardians 2, and it's been since 2017, and like those fans like, man, I can't wait to see Warlock in this, and like this is what you get. I feel I think these are the people that when they go, I don't know if I want James Gunn doing Superman, they're gonna point at Warlock and be like that right there. And the other thing for me, unfortunately, just I do like Will Poulter, but actually none of Warlock's jokes really hit for me at all. To me, he just felt like, oh, we're gonna lose Dave Bautista. We needed another powerful character that's gonna like not understand things, and things will go over his head, and he won't get analogies. Like everything that Drax is, that's what Warlock is. And I agree that they showed his power set right, but I wish I walked away from this movie being like, man, there was one Adam Warlock scene that was so fucking cool. But I don't have that. I think kind of like what Dylan said, if they went to James Gunn and said, hey, you can't use Warlock, I think it's very easy to take him out of the script. I don't think it's a big weight. You just have to change X, Y, and Z. All you have to change is how does Rocket get hurt? That's all you have to change, and that's fucking easy to do, right? Because that's a MacGuffin. The rest of the movie is Warlock with his pet, Warlock with his sister/mother, Warlock, chasing after the Guardians. You could take out all his stuff, and it really doesn't impact it. Even like him saving Star-Lord.
I was just gonna say, yeah, who saves Star-Lord?
Have Gamora do that. Do the flip of the first movie where Star-Lord saves Gamora, she saves him this time and stuff. Like everything you could do, everything. It just didn't work for me, and it's just so weird because I was like, okay, this is big MCU role, Guardians. Will Poulter, he turned down Pennywise, he turned down Elrond, and finally he's doing a big IP thing. So it's like, oh, this is gonna be like a big juicy role, I bet. No, not at all. So, and it's not like a disappointment for me. It just feels like it's very lukewarm. When you microwave something, you take out like, oh, this isn't warm enough. So I just think it didn't need to be in this movie. Like it could be gone, and it wouldn't matter to me. And I wish I liked it funnier, but I don't need another. I don't know. He didn't have the presence, and Will Poulter is funny, but maybe just the writing for him. I walked away, and I was like, if I never see Warlock in the MCU ever again, I'm fine. I don't need to see him. Even if he pops up, cool. But I'm not dying for the Disney Plus show of Adam Warlock like I thought they would do. And yeah, I was gonna say it's a weird choice, but not really because that's James Gunn. You know, like he did that with Drax too. Drax is a lot more serious in the comics, and he made him a big joke machine. But the difference is, I like Drax's joke. So
Yeah, I think there could have been an opportunity to have a big emotional scene with his mom dying, but like I don't know, that would have been probably tricky to make that really hit.
and is she
Uh,
dead?
Oh,
I mean, that
She
that
died
should've
on
blew up
screen.
with her right there. So
Yeah, but
and he doesn't mention
High
it or anything.
Evolutionary. He's in a blowing up ship too, right? So I feel like they're
But
either
we didn't
both dead.
see him in. We didn't see him immediately blow up. We
Yeah,
just saw
she
her
visually
blow up
died on
screen.
screen. Yeah.
I
She's done
guess.
for. She's done for. How many escape pods do you think were on that high evolutionary
Quite
ship?
a few.
Or they might have just brought him to nowhere and locked him up or something like that.
See, and
too,
I
but-
thought she might still be alive, so that actually brings it down a little bit more for me. Because yeah, that meat on the bone is just non-existent there. They didn't
Yeah.
do anything with that.
Which, like, with how much screen time is allotted to, I'll say specifically her. I mean, she's in a previous Guardians movie, but I feel like it would be hard to make that hit considering how much other emotional content we get in this. I would feel like just some little thing tacked on.
Yeah.
But it was weird that kind of just happened, and then like there's just once again there's not really a moment for it to happen, so it is weird that they killed her off. I guess you could have saved that or something.
And I
Yeah.
thought they were going to use that as the moment to, oh, this is why he's going to turn me the Guardians.
Yeah.
Oh.
Not at all. He's just, okay, right after that, I'm back to fucking up the
'Cause
Guardians.
they gave
It's
him a
like,
chance. Yeah.
yeah,
I-
it was a weird choice. Yeah.
I 100% he was gonna have a moment like when Thor comes to Wakanda in Infinity War. And he's like, "Give me Thanos." I thought he was gonna like pop off on the High Evolutionary. It was gonna be like really really epic scene. But
Same
yeah,
Avengers
that-
theme and everything. They just Rocket and Groot
Lightning,
beside
yep.
him. Yeah. Dun, dun,
I'm gonna get that
dun,
on.
dun.
Looking at Nebula.
Yeah.
I would say it feels like the Sovereign are somewhat like not on James Gunn's priority list. I almost feel like it's something more
Yeah.
like above his head. That's like, hey, put them in. We want Adam Warlock, because when you look at how much of like even the back seat they had in Guardians 2, they weren't a prominent thing for him there. And then Adam Warlock was again in a post-credit scene, I'm pretty sure, in Guardians 2. And then here he
yeah.
is just in the back seat. So I feel like James Gunn cares about his core group and that kind of world that he's building. I think it was definitely in the back of his mind to kind of be like, he's going along with it because he has to
Yeah.
within reason, but it's definitely the back seat for him.
I would love to know, back to Guardians 2, whose idea was it? Did he want to put him in there, or was it a Feige MCU of like, you got to introduce Warlock, which is just so funny because Warlock's so tied with the Infinity Saga,
Yeah.
and he's not in it at all. So it's kind of like, now looking back on it, it's like, I don't think you need any of that really now. He didn't fight Thanos. He didn't get the glove like he does in the comic books. He's very different than the comic book version. So I'm very curious if, like I said, there will be a Guardians 4, also not by Gunn. I will be very curious if they stick with this, because Will Poulter is good at comedy and he is more lighthearted, or if he kind of gets like a little bit of a change at what happens. Like look at like Thor Dark World to Thor Ragnarok, right? Could it be the reverse? I don't know. And even then, like I remember Age of Ultron when that movie ended and they showed the new Guardians, and it was like Vision, Scarlet Witch, and Cap, and then Falcon, and everyone was like,
Avengers,
"This team's look."
not New
yeah,
Guardians.
Sorry.
You said
Yeah,
New
the new Guardians. Or fuck, I did it again. Yeah, there you go. The new Avengers, and I remember everyone
Guardians
being
of
like,
Earth. Also
everyone
new
at that
teams.
point being like, these characters can't really lead a movie. And that's the same thing I thought when we saw the new Guardians. Like, yeah, you're going to have to add a Ghost Rider, Silver Surfer to this lineup, because if they did a Guardians movie with just these Guardians could show up in crossovers, but if they just do
Half of
Guardians.
them being CGI creatures feels like maybe too much.
Yeah, 100%. So it's just like when I saw that team, like, yeah, you're gonna have to add some people because no way that Guardians 4 is opening to 100,000 opening weekend with that lineup. There's
And I don't
no
know
way.
if I see. I mean, I guess what's his name? Sean Gunn. I guess I could see him coming back.
I asked
but,
the same
like,
to Emily though. Like at the same time, couldn't you just see them being like, yeah,
It's weird
Kraglin
'cause,
somewhere
it's not
else?
his brother anymore, but at the same time, it's like probably an easy paycheck for how much he needs
James
to do.
is like, Sean, I'm setting you up with the future of the MCU here.
Well,
What
and
about
I-
Leading the
James
Guardians.
Gunn's? What about James Gunn's wife too? She's gonna be.
Don't get me
around.
started. I don't think it's a bad. Some people. Okay, we'll table that for a second. With Sean Gunn though, they filmed him in the Endgame battle, and they cut him out. He's not in like the OG cut and stuff. He's in scenes, so it's just like you can see him in the background, but like at other times he like had a whole whistle scene and stuff like that. So I do wonder when we get to next Guardians, like, does the director be like, yeah, of course Kraglин's there, or is it just like a thing like, yeah, Kraglин's off planet right now? He's like, it's I don't know what you do there and stuff. So but yeah, I think you'll just see them in crossovers. I think now I don't think you'll get a Guardians movie. I think you'll get a Guardians. Maybe that's when you could. Well, I think Hemsworth's probably done soon, but something like that, where in Infinity War they meet in Dynasty and Secret Wars they meet some other characters that could be like, oh, you could be part of this squad, and stuff like that. So
I will say, I mean, I just don't see what the future of Kraglin could be in terms of being a main character. I think he fits well as a side character.
Yeah.
But I loved everything he had in this movie. I loved the dynamic him and Cosmo had. I thought they were really fun, and all their humor worked for me. The good dog, the bad dog thing, and just kind of being the ones who, when you need a scene of nowhere and what's going on back there, they're kind of the vessels to get that. So that all worked for me, and Cosmo's very fun too. So
go ahead.
I was just gonna say I was very surprised too that he had like we saw Yondu, but it wasn't like Star-Lord seeing Yondu. It was Kraglin, and I really liked that moment as well.
Yeah.
Like it just like no offense, but I feel like I really did not care much for Kraglin. Like I feel like some moments were very comedic, but they like brought heart to that character, and like I guess Yondu probably was like a big father figure to him along with other Ravagers, not just Star-Lord. So I really liked just that quick moment, and to see him pop off, that was fun because I don't know. I still just had that meme in the back of my mind of him just killing himself with the freaking arrow accidentally, and I'm like, it's gonna fucking happen, isn't it?
I thought for a second it was gonna happen. Actually, like when they were giving like that was my reverse of you guys thinking Mantis during that big battle scene. Like, man, he's gonna fuck this up. Like it's gonna go terribly for him. And I didn't know if he was gonna kill himself, maybe stab himself, but no, he just apparently took out an entire like just whole squad of these things.
He was quick. It was kind of like. Who's that character from Shang-Chi? I forget the name of the character. Katie, I guess. Isn't she just like
who could just shoot arrows? Yeah, Awkwafina, yeah.
I loved the Kraglin Adam Warlock moment when he hits him with the needle and just bounces off.
Oh, me too.
Like,
yeah.
Who was that? Yeah. Stop! Who threw that at me?
That was another moment when I'm like, this is where Kraglin dies. Like,
I actually thought he might go
Warlock
there.
Just murders him.
Because at that point, I'm like, we haven't seen Kraglin in that many trailers, right? Like, that's what I say. Like, sure, he's on the poster, but they could kill him right here and give them, like, some motivation of, like, oh, we got to go get him because he killed this guy. But I feel like Kraglin's also another great character to get, like, the Hemdell Infinity War treatment where he could die early in one of those Avengers movies and be like, oh, poor Kraglin, but then you move on. But still, like that's the way with Hemdell, right? It's like, oh, yeah, poor Idris Elba. But then you move on. I could see that happen to Kraglin. Honestly, this whole squad, like, other than Groon Rocket, I can see this whole squad being wiped out. And then it's just like, oh, yeah, we lost the Guardians. And that's why the real Guardians have to reform back together or something like that. Like, I wouldn't put it past them. You know, these people killed an entire planet. Like, the very first planet we met, the Nova Corps in Guardians, Thanos killed that whole planet off screen. Like, remember John C. Reilly and his family? Gone. Dead. Nope. Remember Glenn Close? She's dead. Like, Nova Corps is just gone. So if they killed them, they can kill Kraglin and the rest of the cosmos off screen if they want, you know?
I'm trying to think back because there are two trailer shots. Like, one is from that opening sequence when Nebula's holding Star-Lord, and obviously we talked about what could this all be, but he was just drunk. But then there's also that moment when they're all like walking out towards that hallway scene. Essentially, I swear that little creature they did not have in the trailer.
Yeah,
right?
no, they CGI'd
Did they
him
put
out.
Cosmo there instead, or did they just not have the creature there? I'm trying to think back to that now because I feel like
Cosmo's already there. I'm gonna pull it up just to check.
I mean, in the movie, Cosmo's obviously not actually there, but I felt like maybe they were, but that was one of those things.
That creature is giving me too much Shang-Chi vibes. That fucking
I didn't need a creature.
Yeah, that hairy turkey thing.
Cute creatures, fun creatures.
Yeah, and it sucked to me too because all the other like creatures and stuff like that were very good CGI, but this one stuck out as very like this feels like a Pokemon game right now. Like this doesn't feel like it's there. Rocket feels like it's there. Cosmos, obviously, it is like a dog, like a real dog at times, but at times when it's not, it feels good. This is like okay, this just feels like which I guess because it's not a real animal, so they got nothing to base it really off. But I didn't need another. And Adam's obsession with it was like, all right, I'm not digging this joke much, but someone hopefully is liking it. James Gunn's liking it, so
him and Sean Gunn were just killing it laughing.
And Will Poulter just like, I fucking love this thing.
He's like, you better give me a CGI creature to play with.
Yeah.
So I guess that kind of leads perfectly into that hallway shot. Travis, was that the song choice that you weren't a fan of with the?
Yeah, No Sleep Till Brooklyn's just been played to death, man. And like, I like the song. I
It's in
like
Mario.
Beastie Boys. That was in Mario. Yeah, Mario, the fucking king
Oh my
of
God, yeah.
playing
Look at
songs
this.
too much over.
So
But
the creature was in the trailer. That kind of surprised me. It's
Oh,
very
interesting.
small.
We
Yeah.
just didn't
Very
notice,
small,
I
but
guess.
yeah.
But yeah, that didn't work for me. I was waiting for like a big hype up song and that hit. I'm like, okay, now, and I get it because I feel like GA people. I'm like, oh yeah, because they don't watch as much movies. But for me, it's like,
No sleep.
well, yeah, I know this song, but it's just like, I don't know. Like, I definitely preferred like Fleetwood Mac's "The Chain" last go around and stuff like this just didn't get me the same type of vibes and everything. So
Yeah, there's so many options that they could have taken. So, like, of course, like we just watched Mario, so like that's where it was. So it just feels like I've listened to that song many times in these movies. I even if it wasn't in Mario, I feel like there's just better songs to choose in
Yes.
those moments and more Guardians songs. I'm not saying it has to be. The Guardians can't be listening to Beastie Boys, but I don't know. It's kind of to your point earlier that you brought up, Dylan, of just asking us about like the order of the ranking of the music. I'm with you guys. I would probably put this one last, probably 2, 1, 3. I think Travis said that order. I can't remember if everyone else said that one, but
It's
yeah, I don't know.
ordered,
Maybe it's just some of these songs weren't really recognizable for me, or yeah, maybe they just wanted to go for a more somber, but whatever it was, they didn't hit for me too much. And in those moments where I feel like they really should, it was more what was going on screen more so than what was going on in my ears that was lifting those cases.
Yeah, I didn't really mind the song. I didn't love it either, but I think I almost tuned it out because I just loved the way that scene was shot.
Oh.
I love that it started
yeah.
out with a little bit of like first person perspective. He's like first person Groot. I'm like, man, I want a Groot game now. Like I just want to do this. And then, everyone gets their cool moments, whether it's, you mentioned this earlier, Kirkland, of like Nebula just getting trashed and like ripped apart and like, snapping her neck back into position, and just all the combos of like throwing people into Groot or Star-Lord, throwing those little tasers on everyone. And in that moment when like they all like are about to, surround them, and then they all get frozen at once like that. And then when Gamora comes in at the end, when she's like, okay, I'll fight with you guys, and just starts slaying a bunch of people. Of course, I always love when Rocket is on top of Groot shooting, so you get a little bit of that, and then he leaps along the tree and all that stuff. So just everything about it, I loved. There was no use of like overuse of shaky cam, just really fun camera angles, really from the characters' perspectives. And just a small little set piece. It really doesn't matter what the set piece is when you're just the choreography and stuff like that. It is so good, and like so many characters, right? And they made it all work. So just that was definitely the highlight for me on the action side of things.
yeah, it feels like the two comparisons I had is like in Ultimate Alliance when you do like the combo moves, or in the Guardians games you would
Yeah, I
get
was
that
gonna
where
say.
you would like get a meter up and all you would team up and do stuff, and those were some of the best moments. So yeah, it was I think it's the best action shot in any of the Guardians films that they've had, and I'd say who knows what happens at the end of the year, but I definitely, the biggest compliment I give it is like right now that's for sure my top 5 Golden Geek scenes, and who knows, hopefully it sticks by, because obviously that always is a tough category. But right when I saw it, I'm like, okay, between that and John Wick, it's so far just action scenes. But man, it's been a good year for some, and that I like the way they did it. It was like a continuous shot, but it wasn't, because you could tell like they would zoom in and that could be the cut and stuff. But yeah, it was a really great segment.
I'm glad that the music didn't deter it from making it like a top scene for you. That just once again shows how good the scene is, that you can almost turn the sound off and it still works.
Mm-hmm. I'll never get tired of seeing Groot just like put his arm in a creature and then it just like comes out and it's just.
He made it like a mace almost. He because he popped out the spikes in every direction. It was just amazing.
Vicious. But yeah, I love that whole sequence. And yeah, like you mentioned, Dylan, like not really shaky cam. I found a lot of action in this movie. It didn't have shaky cam. It was like spin cam, if that's even a thing, where it like rotates. There's a lot of moments with like zero gravity where they kind of are forced to do that. But I felt like they got to the limit of not very like motion sickness when I'm watching those scenes, but I feel like it got to a point where I'm like getting a little bit too much, but then it would end. So it was like a perfect amount where
Kirkland's crying, vomiting, just yeah.
I was a physical mess at the end of this movie. But like even like the scene that we saw in the trailer of the High Evolutionary, like watching that kid on like the treadmill, like there was a lady in front of me that like covered her eyes because it was just like too motion.
vertigo was hitting strong.
Yeah, like I get it. Like some people are very sensitive to that, but like in that scene, I feel like 95% that's where I was like, oh okay, like this is starting to get a little too turny. And there was many moments where it felt like they were approaching that breaking point, at least for myself, and then they stopped it there. So it was like a perfect length of having those rotational shots. But I huge applause to them for just the creativeness of using those shots, because yeah, they're very noticeable to me. And just getting back to our hallway fight scene, I think all of the little zoom in shots, particularly like the zoom in on Star-Lord's, like right when he hits the taser button, like it's just a nice little emphasis on it, and then you see them all in the background getting zapped. Very, very fun scene. And like you said, Travis, I instantly thought of the game Guardians of the Galaxy, and just makes me want to plug it back in, because yeah, those combo moments when you like play the music, it's lots and lots of fun.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Taylor, any thoughts on that scene? You quiet over there?
Oh, classic hallway scene. It's becoming like the go-to these days, I feel like.
I feel like you can't say classic hallway scene when you haven't watched any Daredevil. You know,
Big
you just
Daredevil
got the
fan.
She-Hulk. You just got the She-Hulk hallway.
Got the
scene,
retro
you know?
coming in.
That's
She-Hulk,
a
but
baby compared
I
to
feel
actual
like
Daredevil.
hallways are kind of like the thing. I can't think of anything on the top of my head right now because I'm too
Yeah,
tired,
you can't think of
but,
anything else. Yeah.
I'm tired. Ask me again tomorrow. But no, it's cool to see another like variant style of this. Just the combos like you guys are all alluding to and talking about. I couldn't agree more. I thought it looked very, very cool. The way they all just like team up with each other. I was not fazed by the Brooklyn song at all. I was like, let's go. This is just awesome. I added it right into my liked songs on Spotify. I'm going to listen to it tomorrow when I'm at work, because I'm going to be just pumped up on that. So yeah, I think it was fantastic. Everything that was going on, you said it, the way that Groot used the like mace attack, just the way that the monsters looked too, were just these high evolutionary, weird, disgusting creations that were bred to, I guess, protect the new world that he was creating. And you had these certain leader-like characters where one was the pig creature and one was the eagle creature, and those were super, super weird. The one main one that was leading the charge in the hallway scene was the octopus-looking one. Very weird creatures. And specifically the pig one, when the pig was in the ship actually capturing Rocket and Gamora was still there, holy shit. And actually, in retrospect too, I realized why there's probably not many people on my showing was because it was in 3D, and I fucking loved it. It was so visually
Oh, well,
great
you
in
should have
3D.
led with that, of course.
Yeah.
No one's seen fucking 3D movies in 2023 unless James
point.
Cameron directed it. The master of 3D.
I will
right?
say it was good, though. There are a lot of real cool moments seeing that, and way better than Ant-Man 2. I would easily watch this 3D again over Ant-Man. Ant-Man I wouldn't rewatch in 3D.
You can
but
tell me as many times getting kicked in the nuts feels good, but I ain't gonna experience it.
Well, no,
anymore,
kicking
you
the
know?
nuts
Gotta
is
try it,
definitely
Travis.
not.
That's how it is
3D.
with 3D. No, that's how it is 3D, except my eyeballs. Just like, you want to see, even Avatar, which is supposed to be the best, it's still just like, oh my God, this sucks. Like, why do I gotta wear these fucking
Oh,
things,
that's
you know?
amazing.
Like,
Let's
oh,
not talk
really?
about Avatar.
So
Did you see it in 3D, Kirkland?
I did. It's the better
No,
way to watch it.
Guardians.
Oh fuck no! I'm not
Yeah,
watching that.
exactly.
It's not
Ain't
James
that
Cameron
good.
behind
Yeah.
the camera. Come on.
Taylor,
the
did,
one
James Gunn.
did you catch who the voice for War Pig was? Who was doing the voice for that?
I did not catch it.
Judy Greer. Do you remember who that is?
The last name is exceedingly familiar.
She plays like Cassie's mom in the Ant-Man movies, and for
And
some
she's
reason,
in Jurassic World as well.
for some reason, she did the voice of War
Right.
Pig too. So she would have been a prime draft pick many years ago, I guess.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I thought
Or
that
Linda
was-
Cardellini. She
I
also
was
has two
gonna
MCU
ask.
roles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who was
Hawkeye's
she?
wife. She's Hawkeye's wife, remember?
I
And
know.
then
Yeah,
she
I
was
know.
Lila.
Oh, she was
She
Lila.
was
Okay.
Lila. Wow.
Yep.
So when War Pig was walking around in the ship, Madison fell for it and I fell for it because it sounded like someone was actually walking, and we both looked to our left like, what the fuck? And then
Fucking
when we
road
see-
pig.
Please,
saying
no!
War
War
Pig.
Pig- yeah, like no.
Pirating the movie.
Thankfully, War Pig was only in the movie and not
War
in
Pig.
our theater.
Yeah.
Said road pig. You got major Roadhog vibes if you're an Overwatch player. Shouts out to that
Shout
game.
out to Roadhog.
Gruesome death though when that head just like
Adam Warlock just rips
Mhm.
off, and he like carries it like under his.
Yeah, he doesn't know what to do with it.
God, I had some annoying person in my theater. Why is he still carrying it around? And then like at 36 hours, he's still carrying it. He's a guy that like every 20 minutes would have some piece of dialogue and then he'd shut up. But then like I think his person wasn't self-aware, but it's just like, I don't know, dude, that's what James Gunn made. Like that's his joke. Sorry.
That's weird. I had a quick question, which is, so for High Evolutionary, the context of him finally looking for Rocket now, it's just because he pretty much what Starler is saying. He's like, this is your utopia. These people, there's like all these drug dealers and things like this. And he's like, yeah, you're right. These people gotta go.
Yeah.
So is that's kind of the impetus, right, for why he was looking for Rocket now after all these years?
Yeah, because he just can't crack the code. Like it's been, I don't know how old Rocket is, but I don't know, let's just say it's 20, 30 years, and he's done all these creations. And I really like that because they're playing the high octane, like the high intense, like villain and hero gonna argue. It's like, they're selling meth, you think it's right? And you're expecting the villain, like, yeah, that is my world. He's like, no, you're right. No, it's a big mess. I gotta fix it. I really liked that turn of, oh, he's and that's what it was. It's just he wanted Rocket's brain so he could, one, I think, get ideas, but also he even said that at one point he wanted to like kind of like harvest it and put it in like those children that were working on stuff like that, because they're like, oh, they can do this wiring in 2 minutes, but you know why they can do that? Because we taught them to do that, where Rocket could just do it by himself. So yeah, that was the thing where it shows that he can do all these great things, and it much was a god complex, but he couldn't make these things like perfect, and that's where he thought getting Rocket would help that. It would control it.
I took it also that Rocket to him was dead, because he seemed to be freaking out. Like, I thought he was talking about like this whole time, oh, you're telling me like Rocket's alive, like we need to find him, and he became instantly obsessed with him. So that was another thing that at least I took that. I don't know if you guys took it that way too.
I'm just
I
trying to think
missed
of
that
the
line.
amount of years it would have been. Yeah, I did not take that. I did not get that perspective, Taylor. So I'm glad you brought that up. It's interesting.
Yeah, it didn't feel like we were in on what triggered them to finally go after Rocket and find Rocket, because like the Guardians of the Galaxy started to spread around as a thing, right? They're getting hired for jobs, and I imagine after Infinity War and Endgame, Rocket's reputation would probably spread around. So I it's not needed. I would
Well, it
like
was
some
the Sovereign,
clarification,
right? Because he got freaked out at the lady Sovereign lady, and he's like, "Oh, you didn't tell me about the Rocket Raccoon, all that kind of stuff." Like, so there's another indicator there.
Oh, I'd have
Yeah, I
to
guess it's
watch
just
that
there's just so
back.
much other stuff, like other people that hired them, and you got to think, which is why I liked when we got that line of Rocket. You hear his voice the first time, and Nebula gets so emotional, because if you remember, in between Infinity War to Endgame, those are the only two Guardians around. It's just Nebula and Rocket.
Right.
So that to me is like, I liked her being so emotional, because it's like she's probably the closest with Rocket out of any of them, even more than Gamora now, because they spent 5 years together without anyone else. So that's where it's kind of like same thing. If he's, who knows, with the High Evolutionary Snap, that's where you could easily just write it away. But that's where it's like he was alone for 5 years. Like it's not a big con thing, but it did break my mind of, or come to my mind of, okay, why now? But it's fine.
It broke your mind.
Also, was the fact that Rocket was different, is that just random chance, or it was? Do you think there's something else specific in how he was made, or some power, like not an Infinity Stone, but like something like that?
He's got that ego gene.
He's got the ego gene. Yeah,
Yeah.
is there
Son of
something
ego.
It's gone
with
now,
it,
it's gone
or was
now.
it just pure chance?
I think just like pure chance, like maybe pure chance because it was this
Some people
raccoon,
are
but
built
Yeah.
different kind of thing.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, they do give a big emphasis on just his math abilities. Like, he's always just been this like super whiz guy. Obviously, he cracked the code on this near perfect race that he was trying to make. But like when they were, I don't know, just like in the cages and stuff. Like there's no reason to me why Lila wouldn't have been someone that can like free think. Like, I feel like she had some very, I don't know. We didn't get a lot of major monologues from her, but like there was no reason for me to think that she was like a simpleton. Like, she seemed like she actually had potential for some good ideas. So maybe that's like, it's something that they just happened to be working with Rocket, and this was like the one mostly the emphasis on like him being able to come up with ideas. I feel like that's more so than him being this like super whiz guy, the guy that can just make this like key card to get out of things. Like I think that line specifically from the High Evolutionary, like I never took it that it was just Rocket that is that case, but I guess because he's
The
a
kid-
Guardians of the Galaxy. He's like our main character, I guess, for this sequence. That's the way it worked out.
Well, it seems like everyone else, including those kids, they were, how do they label it? Like instructive.
It's like root
something.
sequencing.
root memory, right?
Yeah, root
Yeah,
memory, there you
yeah.
go.
So whereas with Rocket, it was just like, how did you know that? How did you know that? And he's just like, well, because it's this. Like he has that like his own kind of like deductive reasoning and logistical kind of referencing and analysis, I guess. And that's definitely something that I really loved about Rocket, just kind of like overcoming, or not overcoming, but developing that, whereas everyone else wasn't really, landing that, I guess.
Yeah, Teeths isn't coming up with no
No,
race saving ideas.
he's a football whiz,
Just
though.
breaking
You know,
bones.
you ask him about who you should draft in the fantasy draft. Teeth got all the fucking answers for you. I'm telling you, he's good at something. You know, so
Root memory,
yeah.
baby.
yeah. What else? What have we even touched upon yet?
Gamora, I think we might have briefly touched upon her, but I was curious how this was gonna go. Like I had some assumptions that it was gonna be like it's not. I think I knew that they weren't gonna just fall back in love because this is a different Gamora. And I really like that they stayed true to that. I really like just seeing assassin Gamora again. Like she's always been an assassin, but she definitely gets tamed like from Guardians 1 and 2, just becoming a family member with the Guardians. She's not so assassin child of Thanos, which like in this movie she really feels that way. She's constantly like threatening to just murder people to like get her way. I really like just seeing that edge to her, and even just down to like the overall look that they went for her. Like she had like greasier hair than like Gamora from Guardians 2, where it's like very like curl, looked like she just got a fresh blowout out of the salon. But I really like just this, like even just it seemed like they gave her some some I was going to say eyeshadow, but like shadow under her eyes, because it's not makeup. It's just like she's been through some dark shit. And I feel like just the whole vibe with Gamora, I really liked it. And those moments when she was kind of seeing the charm in Star-Lord, or just like seeing the companionship to the Guardians, like all those little moments just really shine through, because we, for the most part, we had just her not wanting to be a part of it and pushing back. And I like 10 out of 10 the usage of Gamora in this movie for me. I'm so glad that they like when Star-Lord set like the ship to self-destruct, and she was just like completely amazed by that idea, and they like lock eyes, but like they didn't have to go like with some cheesy kiss or anything like that, because that doesn't make sense here. Just that look alone went a long way. So I loved the way that they used Gamora here, and I like that she was just partying with the Ravagers at the end. Like this is kind of her family now, I forget which one of you brought it up, but she's not a Guardian at the end of this movie, and I'm
No.
like that fits.
I wonder if they were going to give her a little smirk in that Ravager sequence where you could tell that she was, thinking about the Guardians, thinking about, ooh, I don't know, am I
Right.
in the right place? But I like that they didn't. I like that she was happy to be back to what is her home. So yeah, I think that would have been so easy for pretty much everything with her character to feel forced in this. There's a lot of ground they got to cover, and there's obviously a clear ABC kind of place she's going to and from in this. And yeah, I think all of it worked for me, even down to the tear she sheds for Rocket. Like that, like that could have been very cheesy. I'm like, oh, that was too rushed or something. Because even as they said, like, this whole thing takes place in like 48 hours pretty much, or I guess less than that, because they end up saving Rocket. And yeah, but it didn't feel like that at all. It felt very genuine. It felt earned. But at the same time, it didn't feel like it was so overboard, and that she was, I guess, falling for the charm of Star-Lord, falling back in love with the Guardians, and just immediately ditching them either. And I love, too, the little grunt that her and Nebula shared at the end of this thing. I love that they just... Nebula's like had enough of Gamora in her life. She's fine to just, I'll see you again someday if you need me. Let me know, but I'm happy to go my separate way. And so, yeah, I think they did a really good job with that. And once again, I'm curious what that means for the future of the character, because could easily bring her back, but you could also just never mention her again. With Thanos being gone, you wouldn't really need her for a story beat anymore. And obviously, Star-Lord, a big part of his story here is with Mantis and that conversation of the lily pads, and him needing to like, I got to focus on myself. I got to stop. I got to get over this. Obviously, he starts out in a pretty bad place in this, which is pretty lighthearted, his alcoholism and stuff, but just because there's so much to get to in this. But yeah, I agree with you on Gamora.
Oh, let's take another ad break, and me and Taylor talk about Gamora and other stuff, so we'll be right back. And we're back. And yeah, no, I don't have much more to say. You guys nailed it. The head of, what is it? I don't know.
You nailed the fish on the bucket.
The head of the lettuce.
Whatever it was, yeah, I agree completely.
Head of the lettuce.
Zoe Zidane is always great. I don't think we will see her for a while because I think she's kind of like Batista. She's made it pretty clear
She's
that
got
she's
so many Avatar movies to make now.
Yeah,
She's-
exactly. But yeah, she's made it pretty clear she's done with these. I
She's
think
a
you'll
box office machine though. Like they'll throw her some bucks, she'll come back.
I mean, she's just sick and tired of this green makeup. She's sitting in some chair. It's not much, but she's like, man, I'm done with this. But no, I think you'll see her again, but maybe be a smaller proportion. But yeah, everything liked her. I like that she was. I feel like with each, because Warlock wasn't on the team, but I feel like with each, the first one, they're all getting to know each other, right? And then the second one, you had Nebula. I kind of like the third one. She was the wild card this go around because when Nebula was on the team last, we were like, okay, how's this going to go? They're trying to kill each other. That's what Gamora was kind of here. Gamora was never really trying to kill them, but she never had the team's best interest in mind till like the very end, right? Very selfish, self-oriented. So I like that. The scene at like the corporation with the threatening to kill people, all that humor worked for me. I liked her and Peter Quill's back and forth, or Quinn's back and forth with them, all those put downs. And yeah, I loved the result they had too of if they were to bring her back, it's not that they're not in love and it's not the same Gamora, but she even addresses like, oh, well, I could see how it could happen, right? So it's the same thing of like if they were to spend more time together, maybe that would blossom, but it didn't. And I feel like they're also with the Raptors scene at the end kind of implying that Sylvester Stallone is kind of becoming like her better father figure this go around, because it feels like in each Gamora's life she meets somebody that's like a good person. I feel like that's what Sylvester Stallone is, which is just kind of still funny that Sly is in the MCU and he's like in both Guardians movie, like I don't know, 5 minutes and under. It's just such a weird like
He's like still alive, so he could pop up again.
it's just like when we talk about writer's strike and budgets, I just go like, what are you playing Sly for these scenes? Like is it worth it? I don't know, because when I saw him in the Crips, like, oh right, and then he was popping up like earlier in the movie. I was like, oh, maybe he's gonna actually have some sort of big scene here. No, he's like I said, under 5 minutes and stuff. So, but no, I think Gamora was used right. It was a very fun dynamic. So,
With Quinn and Quill and Gamora, man, when they're doing like the personal like DM chat with
oh my god, that was
So
great. Yeah.
I laughed so hard out loud. Like everything like following it too, when they're like explaining the colors and then like Mantis is wrong, like it's actually Drax that like
He's right.
like,
Yeah.
understand. Yeah,
They
exactly.
call him an
It's like-
idiot, but he was
yeah,
right about the
he's like
columns.
it's intuitive. It's just like the complete opposite of intuitive. When Mantis tests the mic, like all of that stuff just totally had me, because it's like a semi, I don't know, emotional moment of like Quill like making himself vulnerable. He's like kind of getting emotional just talking about like what Gamora was like in the past, and I was kind of expecting her to just straight up be like, no, like that's not gonna be it, but still like they were kind of reeling me in. And then it just like pans over and it's like, Quill, we can all hear you. It's like,
Yeah.
fuck, this is
We were
such a
hoping it would
Guardians.
end.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
it was so good.
Yeah, I think they did Gamora very, very well in this iteration, I'd say. And again, getting to see her kind of build this lifestyle with the Ravagers, I wasn't expecting that. I really didn't know what her life was and what she was up to or what to expect, really. So I thought that was great. I always love seeing how the Ravagers are kind of like brought into the story. Especially, I love the guy. He's the Mystic Arts Ravager. Just how they board the
Yeah,
ship.
that
That
was
was
cool.
so cool. Just portals opening up all along the
Totally.
sides. It's just like, oh, that's the best. That's like, what do? Like that's the ultimate weapon to like board ships and steal. I don't know why he didn't just do that for them to get into the headquarters. It would have saved them so much trouble. But I digress.
Must be the shields or something.
Must
like
be
that.
the shields.
Or maybe
yeah.
he just doesn't know where he'll drop them, right? So if a portal opens up and these random people just walk in, then it's like, hey, who are these people? Which, yeah, that was a fun moment. They put the suits in the trash compactor, they're gone. And I was torn on this sequence because I really liked the Nathan Fillion joke with the guy. I got one of those too. Like, I actually like that reoccurring joke. When we had the scene of Nathan Fillion, James Gunn's wife, and the girl who played Ratcatcher from Suicide Squad, I won't lie and say I was taken out. I'm not going to be the fucking guy because it's been a big debate this week of James Gunn puts his wife in everything. I'm not that guy. I'm not saying don't put Jennifer Holland and stuff, but when all three of them were interacting, and I was getting taken out a bit because I'm like, okay, I just see James Gunn and his buddies right now in this thing, especially Fillion, because it's just like whatever he does, like I just see Nathan Fillion. Like, I don't see whatever character he's portraying here. And I thought James Gunn's wife was gonna have this like quick little cameo, but when she said like extended scenes and they do that whole again that joke that didn't work for me of I can't remember what the sister said of like show him. She was just saying intimidate the guy. Remember, they're trying to get information from the guy, and she was like, "Show him how powerful you are," or something. And then he just incinerates him, and she's like, "I didn't mean that." And he's like, "Oh, I thought I'm trying to show him." So that sequence, yeah, it wasn't. The Guardians were great in it. All the other things around for me were like a little hit or miss and stuff, but I liked it for the most part. And I loved Star-Lord's. He's gonna like woo the girl, and then he does like I can talk to them. These are good people, and then he's like, I just need the comps. Like, and he fucks with the suits. Like, great Star-Lord moment. So
yeah. I guess I didn't realize the James Gunn connection on any of those people. I mean, I know Daniela Melchior, but I didn't even know that was her. And I knew she was in this movie, but I had to look at the IMDb to figure out who she actually was because of the pink face paint and stuff like that she's got going on there. So I love that whole sequence. I don't know if there's much to add or break down from it, but I just like the look of it. Obviously the weird and grossness of just the organism element, but then just like inside too. The design of everything in there I thought was particularly interesting. Like the really weird suits they had that kind of looked like the Spy Kids thumbs, but like with pustules on them and stuff like that. It was good. So I really enjoyed that sequence. That was probably the funniest part of the movie. So I like it as kind of like here's your little comedic 15-minute sequence. Then we're gonna get back into the big stuff.
Mantis's stuff was great, going around making all those people change like you're a cat dance. Dancing. That was tons of fun.
And the moment with the moment with her and Drax and that guard when she just like makes the guard like fall in love with Drax.
Like, I'm surprised that didn't come back. I thought later
me too.
Be like we gotta save this guy, love or something like that. But I think it wears off pretty quick, right?
What's your name? Drax the Destroyer. That's such a lovely name.
And I just like everything about that was fantastic, but like specifically Batista's like acting in that moment where it's just like he's been through this so many times and Mantis has she's still just keeps doing this and she still just gets so much entertainment out of it. Like just her like giddiness in those moments were so fantastic. With this whole area I love the design of it. Everything was so like alien and weird, and just like the controls was really weird, the costume was really weird, all the scenery was really weird, the door, like it was just a very like I said, like an alien type location. I loved all of that. That was really, really great job on just actually like thinking of it, but also making it. Like they did such a good job with all the natural like settings, I guess, and just costumes. What was that actor's name? I don't think I've seen him in anything. He's like the main cop guy, but
Nathan Fillion?
Nathan Fillion.
You've never seen him in anything? This guy's like a geek
Firefly.
legend for 20 years.
Firefly,
Castle.
never heard of it.
Serenity.
Castle, never heard of it. Serenity, never heard of it.
You never seen the movie Serenity? I feel like it's a Kirkland movie.
I don't think so. But
Look
anyways,
at his IMDb. Legitimately, I don't know if I've really seen him in much either.
I've seen him because of like I feel like he's on like my GIF keyboard, and every time I pull it up, it's like the one where he's like, "What?" Yeah,
That's from Castle. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I recognized him right away because of that, but I thought he was fantastic. The moron joke, that got me every single time. I on the third one with like when Adam just disintegrates that guy. It's like, oh, moron. You like I got one too. Like I just found that so funny because I feel like everyone has just worked with a particular person that you just don't get along with, or they just irritate you for whatever reason. And I feel like he was speaking to me in those moments. I'm like,
boss's nephew.
I got one. Yeah, I got one too. Oh, that was so good.
I just misheard you. I didn't understand.
That line was great. Like, I got one of these things. He's like, oh, what? I know about that. Yeah, it's not a real thing. Shit's all over him.
This orange guy though, he's doing it. You're doing a great job, man. Really proud of you. Doesn't even know his name.
Anything else? Anything specific on the villain to point out that we haven't talked about? I don't know much other than thought he was like acting wise great, and I think they made him enough motivation. Like I don't think he's like a Thanos or like a Killmonger, but I feel like he's in that like that higher second tier for me, and I think like he checked the boxes what I needed him to do. He was motivated. I got his motivations. Great actor performance. Perfect. Happy.
The moment where he really just started to deliver for me was when he was in his office. He had Rocket on his lap, and Rocket was just kind of like going through like the
Oh, yeah, it
equations,
was
and it
great,
felt like it was a
yeah.
very good emotional moment, like a father-son kind of thing. And all of a sudden, it just turns on a dime when he cups his hands around Rocket and is like just like fixated on his brain, and it just you feel the atmosphere change. That was fucking phenomenal.
Yeah, it's really, you mentioned that. I was going to say that I feel like he is pretty one-dimensional in a good way, but I feel like he does have some moments here or there where sometimes he does have just a little bit of charisma. There's other times where he's very creepy, but I think what worked for me is one, the aesthetic. I think is great. It was cool to see the two versions too of like regular him and then obviously the weird skin
Post-attack.
graft thing. It looks so good. I really like the look of that. But yeah, I guess it's maybe a bit classic of like, oh, what makes a great like male performance, just like screaming and yelling. He does like a lot of that, but so I don't know if he has like some huge monologue that necessarily stands out. But I think for me it was just almost just the lore of it, the backstory, the setup of what he's trying to do and his vision and just how demented and creepy it is. And like I feel like the more you think about it and the more you peel back the layers, the more creepy it gets. So I feel like he's one of the top MCU villains. Obviously, there's a lot of crap you can sift through to get to a pretty high point on that list, but I quite enjoyed him, and I do hope he is still alive. I don't know. I mean, I guess like he's got all other races he's created and stuff that still exist, so you would think he would still be able to accumulate an army and have some power and stuff.
There's other
Right.
variants of him. I'm not going the other route. I'm just saying.
There's
Evolution.
variants of everyone, I guess. Yeah,
High
if you're right.
Dynasty, it's coming. You know, we're
Dynasty.
getting it. And I feel like he's one of those villains that I do think is kind of hard to pull off nowadays. Like when you get Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin, you love the villain, but at the same time, he kills Aunt May. But you're just like, it's Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin. Like I feel like there's parts of this movie legitimately hate this character, not in like a bad way, but you're just like, he's like the definition of a villain. He's supposed to be the bad guy. In no way are you ever polling for this villain, right? Like with Killmonger, you're like, oh, I see where he's coming from. And then it turns like this guy's just like, to his core, he does have a plan, but like all these scenes that and I think that's probably what the flashbacks are good for, with this cruelty, right? Of showing how malice he is for just trying to get his creation done. You do generally just want to see, like when the Guardians are messing him up at the end, I'm like, yeah, I want to see this guy get embarrassed, beat everything. I don't want to see him survive and like become a good guy, you know, like
Rip
with
his
Loki.
face off.
Yeah, like with Loki, you're like, oh, I could see him be with us, but this guy, like, no, kill this fucking guy. Like, I obviously keep him alive for sequels, but in the hero stance, you're like, yeah, there's nothing redeemable about him, you know.
The man's
I mean-
making. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say telekinesis, always a great power.
Oh.
So he doesn't really use his powers that much, but
No.
I mean, you know, little blue light and just throwing people around. I'm always in
His
that.
crew, he uses power in that crew. I really like that
Little-
scene when
he
they
did
all
like a
turn
little
against him.
self-destruct kind of
Yeah,
thing on them.
and I like that. I like the slow burn of them turning against him, and they were not prepared for that situation. They should have shot him a lot quicker, but you live and you learn,
Control of the ship.
right? This little duck
shoot
thing's
when
like,
he
all
charges that
right.
gun. It's like, yeah, with this guy, I think you just shoot. I don't think you think
Yeah,
about it.
there's no holding him captive to like work it out.
Yeah. I love the fact that this guy's just making cryptids left, right, and center. He's making like turtle things. He's making monkey. Like he's made all the cryptids.
He probably made
Holy shit.
Sasquatch.
He
back
probably
on
made
Alpha Flight.
Sasquatch. Yeah.
He fucking made a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle at one point when that
Yeah,
turtle came out. I was like,
that's
Jesus
fucking scary.
Christ, this is like the closest thing
Seth
we're gonna get
Rogen.
live action TMNT in a while. So
And then he just evaporated him. And
Oh.
Taylor, yeah, as your name suggests, you got a little kaiju in here too. It's a lot of cryptids and kaiju, a lot of cryptic clue elements of this.
Yeah. I like that scene. Like, I remember him saying kaiju or them saying kaiju, but there was a term before that, like go full kaiju, I think, or like full kaiju, or
Mhm, yeah.
yeah,
you never go full kaiju.
never go full kaiju. I love that. It just Groot just go, wow, just going absolute ham. That was fantastic.
It seemed like in the post credit though that that's just how he is now. Like he's continued to grow and he is
It's
just
getting bigger.
massive now. He almost was like had some stone to him, like he's turned into the Thing or something like that.
Yeah.
So, do you think
He is the
he's
Thing
going to
in
be
Fantastic
a
Four.
giant in all these movies going forward when he pops up again?
I think he'll be that size. I don't think he'll be like the
puberty.
height, but I think he'll
Yeah,
be
not like a
the
celestial, but
yeah. He'll be
twice as big as he
One
was.
day.
We can't transport Groot anywhere, but yeah, because now I think if he becomes a kaiju, he's like massive. So that's.
And he talks. He speaks English now.
Yeah, I don't think I needed that.
I don't know if he
didn't need it
does.
either. What he said? He said like he didn't say like we are Groot. He spoke like a full on new sentence. That's a big change.
I took it as we're hearing what they hear in the translation, and he's not actually saying "I love you guys." So like when he says "I am Groot," and it's like they know like oh get to the ship, and they
Because
know that.
they didn't really react at all, so that's why that
Yes.
makes sense actually.
And especially in that scene right
good
before,
observation.
they were just establishing that Gamora was finally starting to understand him. So I think this was the translation of he actually did say "I am Groot" if you didn't know the language, but if you know the language, he's saying "I love you guys."
Did Vin Diesel get paid twice as much because he had twice as many lines? or-
Probably 3 times.
Yeah.
He had a lot of yells in this movie too. There's a lot of like he had a lot
You
of.
could hear the
He's not
diesel.
doing the yell.
You could hear the
Oh, I heard the
diesel.
diesel.
Oh, I heard the
Sean Gunn
diesel.
yelling for sure.
Amped up. My question is too. I wonder if Cooper must have got the Baby Rocket voice too, right? Like that's the same thing they
There
did
is
with
someone
Diesel.
credited for Baby Rocket.
Okay, so maybe it wasn't Cooper. Okay, there you
I mean,
go.
it also says that Sean Gunn is young Rocket. I don't know because I know he does the like.
yeah, the mocap for him. Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't say like as a stand-in. But then there is someone else. Noah Raskin. I'm sure it's just some random kid who has literally one credit. So it's probably Sean Gunn or James Gunn's kid or something like that.
Okay.
But yeah, there is someone credited as a Baby Rocket voice.
I was just wondering because they did that with Groot, right? Where they had Vin Diesel say the lines and they just auto-tuned his voice and stuff. I was wondering if they did that with Cooper, but no, even easier paycheck for Cooper this go around.
There's also someone credited like their character's name is Gamora shoots this guy! Exclamation mark.
Fuck. Who you play? Gamora shoots this guy. Not even shot by Gamora. Gamora shoots this guy.
Yeah.
Done.
Stuff.
Anything else? Anything else we're missing? Characters, scenes you want to shout out now before we get to the end point here?
No, I don't think so.
No, I think we've covered it all.
Thought the ship
Yeah.
was cool. I didn't know it could just like break off into 3 pieces like that. That was
Oh, the
cool.
Bowie. Yeah,
Yeah, the Bowie.
yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah, I should promote it at the beginning too. Next week there'll be an after 9, so we'll talk about it more and people will give their thoughts and stuff. So that'll be a good time. But yeah, oh, Taylor.
Well,
Very shocked by that.
You mentioned ship, Kirkland. You remind me. I didn't know that the Nowhere could actually like move around like that. It had a big
I didn't either.
cannon in
I
its
didn't know
eye.
either.
That was sweet.
Must have been a new upgrade since the holiday special.
Yeah,
Flying
that's what,
Dutchman, basically.
yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
took it as. I don't know if it could always move, but now that they've like taken it over, because I can't remember. There was some explanation that they got some critics, and maybe it wasn't holiday special that like all the credits they bought it. So I guess like they literally own Nowhere and stuff. And talk about some predictions. No, they had a few characters back. Like Howard Duck was back. The guy from the first one that Peter tries to give the stone to that has like those black
The
things.
shopkeeper guy.
Yeah, but again, no collector. I was hoping for one appearance, but didn't happen. So who knows where the hell that guy actually is? Because even in Infinity War, when he was with Thanos, that was a illusion. So I have no idea where where the hell has he been since
Yeah.
Guardians 1, you know?
It's collecting.
Yeah.
Dead in a ditch somewhere.
Thanos just killed him off screen like John C. Riley. Just- everyone from
With the other
Guardians
Nova
1,
Corps.
if you didn't see him, they're fucking dead off screen. So, yeah. Dilmas, final thoughts on Guardians 2. And also for a quick one, where would you rank this out of the trilogy right now?
Yeah, so for the trilogy, I remember when we did a review for Guardians 2, at the time, me and Travis were in the boat of that being the superior of the two movies. And now, Kirkland, it sounds like you also are on Team 2. I've actually switched back, and now I'm on Team 1, being
Oh, right.
my
Yeah, yeah.
favorite. And I think it just is maybe just the rewatchability factor. There's a lot of sequences in 2 that the more and more I watch the movie, like, they don't really improve. It's just like, okay, this is solid, but it's just there's something fun about going back to that first one, I guess. They're still both like top 5 level MCU movies. They're both fantastic. It's just
Oh, yeah.
the order switched back. And man, it's really hard to make that call right now. I think it legitimately could be the best. I can say that pretty happily. But even if it is the worst, like it still is. Like, I feel like this has got to be like a top 10 MCU. They're just like slotting it right in there. I love this movie. So I don't have an answer for you right away. You'll have to report back. Give me a few weeks to think about it. When I get back from my
course.
trip,
Yeah.
I'll reveal where it is. But no, I loved it. Just like some of the bows we tied, pretty much all we tied so many bows in this, and they all work. So I feel like the more I think about, man, I don't know, this might be my favorite Guardians movie now all of a sudden. But I don't want to allow the recency bias to take over on that. So I'm gonna put it on the shelf. But no, I feel like we're pretty thorough. I feel like we covered every character, every scene, every sequence in this movie, and it is truly fantastic. It feels good to have. I've been on a bit of a dry spell here on the MCU movies. It's only been like a year since Doctor Strange, but just to have a movie that is from start to finish fantastic. Every character gets their moments. CGI being not problematic for the first time in the MCU in a while is something I am very happy about. So yeah, I'm gonna rewatch this movie like a million times. It's great. Love it.
Yeah, it's funny. Like you talk about the trilogy, and like there's so many trilogies where there's two tales of story, right? Like with like Captain America or Dark Knight trilogy, clear like okay, I got this one as my number one. Where like Lord of the Rings, I have my number one. I still say it's Fellowship, but it's like any day of the week, and you ask me for myself, I could make a case of why. Oh, actually, Return of the King because this is or Two Towers. Like that's why Guardians is where same thing. It's fantastic. I think I have it at the bottom of the trilogy, but that I need some time to think on it because even ranking for my year movies and my MCU movies, which it's in my top 10 right now for MCU, but even then I'm like, this is what I need to stew on a bit more. I think this one will require a second watch just because it is a little bit of a different Guardians movie. It is a bit darker, and I think those moments play very well. I think for me, it's just that with stuff like Adam Warlock with Guardians 1 and 2, I don't really have one thing I can single out of that not really working for me. I'm still giving this a 10 out of 10. Like all the things I liked, it's still like
30 for the trilogy. Hey?
yeah,
That's
perfect
amazing.
30. Yeah, and that's where it's like the Warlock stuff doesn't bug me that much, but still, if I'm comparing all three of these movies, I go, well, there's a few things in here where I went, but then that's what I'm saying. This one's more of a same thing as Dylan kind of asked me, maybe more to like the end of the year as well. Like, give me at least a second watch, and that's where I want to sit on it. But yeah, right now I got it 2, 1, 3. But all like there's so many times I've gone back and forth of like, oh, maybe one is my favorite, or like even my ratings right now. Like when I was right now, I have Loki and Avengers above Guardians 1 and 2, and even rewatching them this week, I'm like, I think I might have to change that. Like, and that's where now I'm stuck because like the top 10 of my MCU, they're all like the perfect tens. Like they're all like now it's just like I'm gonna hate to bump anything out because now it's like my top 10 is just an S tier now of like all these are great comic book Marvel movies, and yeah, this like I said, it did everything I wanted it to do. James got knocked out of the park. I am sad that he's leaving Marvel, but the good thing is he's leaving on like a walk off, and I think this is definitely more akin to the Phase 2, Phase 3 is MCU stuff. I didn't have a big problem with Phase 4. There's projects I didn't like, but wasn't on the back burner because I like Thor, I Love and Thunder, I loved Wakanda Forever. So for me, I'm enjoying all the movies. We'll see how the Marvels goes, but yeah, I think yeah, definitely a fantastic trilogy, and I'm gonna be sad that I'm sure we'll see these characters around, but we're not gonna see them at least probably all together again. And with James Gunn, I'm gonna miss some of these misfits because I feel like next to Captain America, as far as characters I would miss, is like the group of Guardians together for me. Like all of them. Like I know we've lost Iron Man, I know we've lost Loki a bunch, but like this group of Guardians, anytime they're together, it's such a thrill. And I love these characters. I have like a big connection to Star Lord. So yeah, like I said, giving it the 10 there. So Kirk and Panther.
Yeah, I when I walked out of the theater, I definitely was just thinking that this is the best trilogy that the MCU has done. Like all three movies are just so top tier, and like the quality, they really just stay true to what the Guardians are. But to your guys' point that you brought up earlier, like each movie just really feels different, even though they are all spectacular. And that's just, I feel like it's very difficult to do, especially in like the MCU when you have an overall structure to follow. Like the MCU is constantly progressing, but to just like take these characters, and it's not just like one character that's going through a lot. Like you have multiple characters to shine light on, give them focus, give them growth and loss and all these emotions that characters go through. And I just tip my hat to James Gunn and team for being able to pull it off. So but like near the end of the movie, I think it was even like just leading into the first end credit, I was just like, yeah, like getting that thought. I'm like, man, I'm not gonna see the Guardians like this anymore with the James Gunn, and like this is just a sad moment, but enjoy it for what we got.
And the hope is that, like, we've had ups and downs over the years. The hope is that he brings this energy when we get all those new DC movies, right?
Yeah,
Like, if he
absolutely.
can somehow, obviously he can't direct all that stuff, but if he can somehow bring some of this where, all of us are very positive on this, that'd be a refreshing tale, so.
Absolutely. In terms of ranking them, it's tricky. I think halfway through this movie, I was like, "Hey, this is probably the bottom one out of all of them." But like, that's not low. Like,
No.
they're all
It's the bottom of the
phenomenal
best,
movies. Yeah. But then by the end of it, because I had just been going through all these different emotions of just like those flashback scenes, having just such a great send off to these characters in this perfect trilogy, like, fuck yeah, like, this might be the number one. I don't know, it's tough. I haven't just watched all three of them. Like, I definitely gonna need to do a rewatch on all of them, probably just freaking back to back, so I really just know where my emotions lie. But I mean, it could be one of those things that, I don't know, I watched the first one and all of a sudden it's like, okay, this is probably the best Guardians, or I rewatched the second one again and it's just, no, this is the number one. Like, it is really, really hard, and that's, again, just credit to the quality. And in terms of rating, I think I'm gonna give this one a 9.5, not a 10 out of 10. I think there was maybe some character near deaths that could have just gripped me a little bit more. And I was kind of expecting to go that route. Maybe just some of like the actual music, like, it just could have been some better choices here and there. And Taylor, I think it was you that brought up how, like, the beginning seemed to just kind of be rushing back and forth a bunch of places. I actually kind of felt the opposite. I just felt like we were kind of in nowhere for a while, and I don't know, it wasn't a long time, but in the moment I was just ready to get into the action. It seemed like a slow enter, at least for myself there. So not a perfect movie, but definitely very, very impressed, and I had high expectations going into it, and they completely blew me away. So yeah, I'm very, very happy to have these thoughts. Seeing the early Rotten Tomatoes scores, I was a little bit nervous going into it because it was somewhere around the Quantumanium numbers, initially at least. So I
No,
I'm
it was no.
Was the
it
early
wasn't.
Quantumaniums
No,
like
no.
70 something?
Well,
Like
Kwame,
the week
yeah,
before?
like, it started
Yeah,
higher, but then it
exactly.
dropped.
And this one was
but, like,
78.
it hasn't
It's the
dropped.
same thing.
It's 80%
I didn't revisit
now.
it. I didn't
Okay,
revisit
okay.
it though. I just heard like the 78, and then it's like,
Yeah.
oh god,
I didn't know
that's
that
near
Ant-Man started
Quantumania.
that high. That's why I was surprised. So
Yeah, because only some reviews came out and then
Yeah, exactly.
tanked it.
Check
It didn't
those
go that way.
facts. Check those facts.
Yeah,
They
no,
were
you made a good point too about me maybe ranking this last one too. Is like the music. That's another thing too, where I wonder on the rewatches where, because that's not as strong. So yeah, and good points, Kirkland.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're 9.5. You
the
almost turned me.
facts.
You almost turned me the 9.5. I was like, yeah, maybe, but Taylorfield.
I really, really enjoyed this film. I have, like, as you reminded everyone, Kirkland, that first part was just a little bit too quick cut for me. But again, that's not enough to knock off a point, even a quarter point, half point, anything like that. I really had a good time watching this. I like the humor that they kind of trickled in there. I feel like Drax is definitely my kind of humor. As far as the Guardians go, I've always really liked Rocket, and so getting this whole narrative backstory with Rocket was fantastic. It was so emotional, and it was just such a fresh, passionate twist to what we've gotten before with the Guardians. And it's nice not to just be so focused on Star-Lord's backstory after Guardians 2 and after just what he's going through brief post with the snap, just with Gamora and everything like that. Like, they could have made this movie easily focusing on Star-Lord and Gamora, but they didn't. They just managed to somehow make it work where they were both thrown into the situation together, and they both came out more strongly, like, invested in their own paths and where their futures were going. And I really like that. So again, everyone got a little bit of time here to really shine. I think that was great. You used the term a lot here, Dylan, like just using bows, and just it worked so well on so many different points, and I love that. So yeah, I would give this a 10 out of 10. Where I would rank it, I would rank it number 2. I would put Guardians 1 at 1. I would go Guardians 3 and then Guardians 2 after that. This is something I already really want to go see it again, and I cannot wait to see where everyone's going to end up now moving forward and on our way to the High Dynasty. So it's going to be very interesting.
You got a writer's strike, so you're gonna be waiting a long time, my friend.
It'll be
to
a
see
long
it.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we won't the
Well, they got the
legendary
AI
Starlin-
now. AI's writing it now, right?
Right? Yeah, and that movie they wrote.
Luke's
check out
fleet's coming.
Check out our Guardian predictions. I think our chat AI gave Adam Warlock more screen time than the actual movie here did. So.
Oh yeah.
There we go. We've done it. We've kind of weird. It hasn't really set in, but we've closed a chapter on the Guardians. This selection of Guardians, James Gunn and stuff like that. But at least it went out with its head held high. Thank you very much to everyone that listened to this all the way. Let us know your thoughts. Next newscaster after 9, we'll be putting out the call for you to drop your reviews or questions about it, because also we did the night before, or the night of. So look out for that on Patreon. Thank you very much for tuning in. And when you hear from us next, it'll not be boring. See ya.
Peace.
Bye bye.